A hint of surprise and elation flashed through Han Li's eyes upon seeing this, and he pointed a finger at the yellow-haired man. In the next instant, a small azure sword appeared above the yellow-haired man's head, then swooped down with incredible speed and power. The man's body was instantly sliced into two, and his soul was also completely torn to shreds. Only now did the other two heavenly court cultivators return to their senses, and they immediately turned and fled in two different directions, while summoning a string of immortal treasures to defend themselves. All of a sudden, Immortal Lord Hot Flame appeared in front of the female cultivator, blocking her path as he swept both sleeves through the air, sending a wave of golden ripples surging toward the woman. As soon as she flew into the golden ripples, she was instantly slowed down significantly. "It's my turn now," Immortal Lord Hot Flame chortled as he made a hand seal to send several fiery red flying swords hurtling directly toward the woman. Han Li took a glance in Immortal Lord Hot Flame's direction, then turned to the final heavenly court cultivator, but didn't immediately strike. Instead, he turned his gaze to the green gourd before thrusting a palm into its underside once again. The third heavenly court cultivator, a portly young man, was flying extremely quickly, and he was just about to disappear into the distance when a streak of crimson light shot out of the gourd at an incredible speed, appearing behind the portly young man in a flash. The layers of protective spiritual light around his body were torn apart by the streak of crimson light with ease, and a large hole was punched through his lower abdomen, destroying the nascent soul inside. Immediately thereafter, a small azure sword appeared above his head, then swooped down to slice his body into two as well. After that, a burst of azure sword light surged out of the sword, picking up the portly young man's storage tool before carrying it back to Han Li, who remained still on the spot, observing the green gourd with a contemplative expression. That streak of crimson light was the burst of law powers that had been sucked into the gourd in the wake of the destruction of that fiery, immortal sword. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face as he stowed the green gourd away, following which two small azure swords appeared beside him, both of which were carrying storage tools belonging to the yellow-haired man and the portly young man. Han Li stowed the two swords and storage tools away, then flicked a finger through the air, releasing two balls of fire that quickly incinerated the remains of the two slain heavenly court cultivators into ashes. Right at this moment, an agonized wail rang out, and Han Li turned to discover that the female heavenly court cultivator had already been set alight with silver flames. She was frantically trying to douse the flames, but her efforts were completely futile, and she was also incinerated into ashes in the blink of an eye. In the next instant, Han Li appeared beside Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and the latter asked, "It's you, right, fellow Taoist Li? Thank you for your help. Now's not the time for small talk. Let's get out of here first," Han Li said as he made a hand seal to release two thick bolts of golden lightning, conjuring up a lightning formation. A loud thunderclap rang out, and the two instantly vanished into thin air. Shortly thereafter, an arc of five-colored lightning arrived on the scene, drawing to a halt in the sky above the call. The lightning then faded to reveal Su Liu and a scholarly-robed man, both of whom had grim looks on their faces. "It looks like Yi Lion and his two companions were all killed," Su Liu remarked in a grim voice. "Huo Zhuozi is only at the late golden immortal stage, so there's no way that Yi Lion and his two late golden immortal stage subordinates should have been killed by him, especially not this quickly," the scholarly-robed man said with tightly furrowed brows. Su Liu swept his gaze over the battlefield, and all of a sudden, something caught his attention as he descended beside the bottomless hole that had been pierced into the earth by the beam of yellow light that had come out of Han Li's gourd. He crouched down to examine the hole a little closer, and the grim look on his face became even more pronounced. The scholarly robed man flew down beside him, and after briefly inspecting the hole, he declared, "This is definitely not something that the likes of Huo and Yi Lion could have done. Someone must have killed Yi Lion and his subordinates and rescued Huo. The scholarly robed man then began to chant an incantation, and a wave of rippling white light surged out of his glabella before instantly spreading over the entire surrounding area in a radius of several dozen kilometers. Shortly thereafter, he continued, "I can sense the aura of a fifth cultivator here outside of Yi Lion and the others, and that person was most likely the culprit. However, the aura that they've left behind is very faint, so they must have anticipated that someone would come to search the battlefield. In the end, they appear to have used some type of lightning spatial formation to flee the scene with Huo. Can you find out the destination of the lightning formation?" Su Liu asked. "I'm afraid not. The lightning formation has already teleported them outside of my sensory range," the scholarly robed man replied. Su Liu fell silent upon hearing this. "What do we do now?" the scholarly robed man asked after a brief silence. "We can't find any leads, so let's go back for now," Su Liu replied. As soon as his voice trailed off, he swept a sleeve through the air to release a burst of five-colored lightning, which swept up both of them before sending them flying back the same way that they had come from. Ali. In the sky above a lush forest in the Black Mountain Immortal region, a vast expanse of silver lightning cascaded down like a waterfall, forming a lightning teleportation formation that contained Han Li's duo. After the lightning faded, the two of them traveled southward for several days before descending into a small town concealed within a call. Upon landing, neither of them said anything as they busied themselves with concealing their own auras, and only after that did they make their way into the town along the bumpy stone path. At the entrance of the town was a wooden archway that was in a state of severe disrepair. The black tiles on top of the archway were covered in moss, and the words "Green Forest Town" were engraved onto lintel below. The archway was tilting slightly to the side, and upon catching sight of the town's name, Han Li suddenly recalled the first town that he had stayed in after leaving his village countless years ago as a child. That town's name had been Green Ox Town, and there was only a difference of one word, but the two were worlds apart. "What is it, fellow Taoist Li?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked at the sight of Han Li's distracted expression. "It's nothing, I was just reminiscing about some past events," Han Li replied with a shake of his head. "You're still in the mood to be reminiscing about the past in a situation like this. You certainly seem much more composed and relaxed than I am," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a wry smile. "We've been traveling southward this entire time, but along the way, we've changed directions eastward and westward several times, and it doesn't seem like we're being tailed by anyone at the moment, so there's no need to be overly anxious," Han Li said with a smile. The two of them passed through the archway to discover that the town wasn't very large, but it had everything that one could hope to find in a town like this, including restaurants, shops, and inns. Han Li and Immortal Lord Hot Flame entered a tea house, then requested a booth on the second floor before sitting down next to the window. The waiter brought to their table a pot of premium tea and some well-made snacks before departing, leaving Han Li's duo on their own. Han Li lifted the teacup before taking a whiff, and he couldn't help but raise an eyebrow in surprise at the refreshing fragrance of its contents. "I didn't think there would be such fine tea in such a secluded place." Immortal Lord Hot Flame took a sip of tea upon hearing this, then immediately set his cup down again, clearly not as impressed with the tea as Han Li was. "I'm even more indebted to you now, fellow Taoist Li," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said as he turned to Han Li with a serious expression. "Before we discuss that, why don't you tell me why you were being attacked by Han Li cultivators?" Han Li asked. "I'm afraid I can't answer that question," fellow Taoist Li. Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a slightly awkward expression. It's fine, I can roughly guess the reason. Something must have happened in your sect, right? I'm assuming this is also why you told me not to use my identity as an outer sect elder of the Fire Leaf sect any longer. You helped me in the valley, so I'm only repaying the favor here, Han Li said. That was part of my consideration, but mostly, I just didn't want any more trouble, Immortal Lord Hot Flame sighed. Han Li picked up his cup to take a sip of tea, BTU right as he was about to speak again. His expression suddenly changed drastically as he stood up from his chair, and an azure bamboo cloud swarm sword appeared in his grasp in a flash. Immortal Lord Hot Flame immediately sprang out of his chair as well upon seeing this, and he followed Han Li's gaze, turning his attention to the entrance of the booth. At the same time, a burst of silver light appeared there without any warning, giving off formidable spatial fluctuations. A burst of azure light immediately emerged over Han Li's body as he prepared for battle, and the aura that had erupted out of his body in that instant was so immense that Immortal Lord Hot Flame couldn't help but be momentarily dumbstruck. Right at this moment, a slightly familiar voice rang out. Settle down now, fellow Taoists. We are not from the Immortal Palace and we don't mean you any harm. Two figures emerged from within the silver light, one of whom was a handsome purple-robed young man, while the other was a thin black-robed young man. Han Li was immediately able to identify the two as CHUANKONG and Silver Fox of the Reincarnation Palace, but he didn't lower his guard in the slightest. Instead of saying anything, he turned his gaze to Immortal Lord Hot Flame as he noticed that both CHUANKONG and Silver Fox were also looking at him. Immortal Lord Hot Flame swept his gaze over Silver Fox, then turned to CHUANKONG as he asked, "Who are you?" "My name is CHUANKONG. You probably haven't heard of me, but that's not an issue. All you need to know is our objective for coming here to see you," CHUANKONG replied with a smile. As he was speaking, he took a quick glance at Han Li, and a hint of befuddlement appeared deep within his eyes. "You were at the Jade Kun Pagoda auction, right? Considering all the bidding wars we were involved in, you must be a very wealthy man," Silver Fox remarked as he turned to Han Li. "Surely the vastly renowned Silver Fox hasn't come all the way here to seek retribution over such a trivial matter," Han Li said with a composed smile. "Rest assured I'm not that petty. We're here today for fellow Taoist host Flame," Silver Fox replied with a smile of his own. "What do you want from me?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked with a wary look in his eyes as he unconsciously shuffled a little closer to Han Li. "Let's not waste time here, fellow Taoist Hot Flame. I'm sure you know why we've come here to see you," CHUANKONG said. Han Li turned to Immortal Lord Hot Flame with an inquisitive expression upon hearing this. "I don't know what you're talking about. There's no vendetta between us, so let's all go our separate ways. Come one, fellow Taoist Li, we're leaving," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said. "Do you not want to go back to visit our sect?" Silver Fox suddenly asked as he raised his voice a little. Immortal Lord Hot Flame was silent for a moment upon hearing this, then asked, "What's the point? It's nothing more than a set of ruins anyway. I don't understand why you can't just let the past go." Han Li was rather perplexed by this conversation, but he could see that Silver Fox and CHUANKONG didn't harbor any animosity, so he stowed his longsword away. "It's not that we're unwilling to let go of the past, fellow Taoist Huo. It's the heavenly court that refuses to let bygones be bygones. Why is the Fire Leaf sect under the Immortal Palace's surveillance? And why is there so much unrest in the floating Cloud Mountain range? I'm sure you're fully aware of the underlying reasons," Silver Fox sighed. Han Li's heart stirred slightly upon hearing this. It was no wonder that Immortal Lord Hot Flame had warned him not to use his identity as an elder of the Fire Leaf sect. It seemed that there were some mysterious circumstances involved. even though Han Li had already guessed that this was the case. It was all but confirmed now that Yu Ziki had been attacked because of Immortal Lord Hot Flame. Immortal Lord Hot Flame was silent for a moment, then asked once again, "Who are you?" "I am a member of the Reincarnation Palace, while fellow Taoist Shi here comes from the Devil Realm," Silver Fox replied. "What? Even the Devil race has chosen to join forces with your Reincarnation Palace?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked with a surprised expression. "You're far too kind, fellow Taoist Hot Flame. I don't possess anywhere near the level of status or power required to represent the entire Devil race. I'm here today as I was invited by fellow Taoist Silver Fox, and I'm also curious about what happened to the True Mantra sect. Would you be able to enlighten me, fellow Taoist Hot Flame?" CHUANKONG asked with a smile. Han Li's expression remained unchanged upon hearing this, but internally, he was reeling upon hearing mention of the True Mantra sect. This was not a sect that he was unfamiliar with. Not only did the Mantra Axis scripture come from this sect, one of his spiritual transmigrations had taken him to the sect. On top of that, it was clear to him that Shi Chuankong was downplaying his own importance. He had mastery over the laws of space, which was one of the 3 paramount laws, so how could he possibly just be some insignificant no-name as he proclaimed? "During the fall of the True Mantra sect, I just so happened to be trapped in a set of ruins while out on a mission for my master. By the time I finally managed to free myself, close to 1,000 years had already passed. All of the surviving members of our sect had become wanted fugitives of the heavenly court, so I had no choice but to alter my own appearance and leave. I also really want to find out what happened to our sect. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the risk to come to the Black Mountain Immortal region and establish this Fire Leaf sect," Immortal Lord Hot Flame sighed. "So you've been residing in the Floating Cloud Mountain range this entire time to evade the Heavenly Court?" Han Li asked. "Not entirely. I spent most of my time in the Leisure Valley as I got along very well with fellow Taoist Duan and the others, but ultimately, my troubled past followed me to the valley and brought disaster upon everyone," Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a guilty expression. "There's no need to blame yourself, fellow Taoist. The Immortal Palace has been aiming to target the Floating Cloud Mountain range for quite some time now, and their primary objective is to eradicate the members of our Reincarnation Palace residing in the mountain range," Silver Fox consoled. "I have a question. Some time ago, one of the fellow Taoists living in our valley was attacked. Was the perpetrator someone from your Reincarnation Palace or from the Immortal Palace?" Han Li asked. "Are you talking about the one that was left on that cliff to die? He was attacked by some guy who dressed up like a woman and had a red umbrella. He looked more like the subordinate of an immortal envoy than someone from the Black Mountain Immortal Palace to me," Silver Fox replied. "Does that mean you were the one who saved him?" Han Li asked as he raised an eyebrow. He detonated his own consciousness rather than allow his own soul to be searched, and I was impressed with his courage, so I decided to help him out. Having said that, I didn't think you would actually be able to save his life. That was also very impressive," Silver Fox praised. "We're going off on too much of a tangent, Silver Fox. Let's finish discussing the matter at hand first," Shi Chuankong interjected. "Sorry, I do tend to get distracted. So how about it, fellow Taoist Huo? The Heavenly Court has already tracked you down, so you'll have to go back on the run anyway. Why don't you become our ally and we'll search for the ruins of the True Mantra sect together? After that, I can submit a recommendation for you to join our Reincarnation Palace, and you'll receive protection in exchange," Silver Fox said. A hesitant look appeared on Immortal Lord Hot Flame's face upon hearing this, and he didn't immediately reply. "The ruins of the True Mantra sect will be hard to find, but you don't necessarily have to join us to find it. If you don't wish to join us, then we won't force you to do so, but in that case, you'll have to face the Heavenly Court on your own," CHUANKONG said with a smile. Fellow Taoist, she is right. The heavenly court won't let you off the hook, and you may not be able to get away next time. Are you not interested in uncovering the mysteries behind the true mantra sect's demise? Working with us will be a win-win situation for everyone, Silver Fox chimed in. Han Li watched in silence as the two took turns trying to convince Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and he didn't interject as this had nothing to do with him anyway. Besides, surely you don't want the great 5 elemental illusion mantra left behind by Patriarch Myro to be taken by the heavenly court. Silver Fox, and Immortal Lord Hot Flame, immediately shuddered slightly upon hearing this. There's no need to be so surprised. Our reincarnation palace has some very good sources. One of the main reasons why the heavenly court has always wanted to enter the ruins of the true mantra sect is precisely for the great 5 elemental illusion mantra, CHUANKONG said with a smile. Does the same not apply to you? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked with a cold sneer. As opposed to saying that our objective is to obtain this cultivation art, it's better to say that we want to avoid having the cultivation art fall into the hands of the heavenly court. In that regard, we have a common objective, Silver Fox replied with a smile. Immortal Lord Hot Flame was silent for a long time upon hearing this, following which he finally arrived at a decision. All right, I agree to your proposal. You won't regret the decision, fellow Taoist Huo. This is why I love working with smart people, Silver Fox said with a gleeful expression. Hold on a second. If you want me to join you, then you have to agree to a condition of mine, Immortal Lord Hot Flame suddenly said. Go ahead, Silver Fox prompted. In order to save me, fellow Taoist Li has killed cultivators of the Immortal Palace, so he needs to go on the run as well. Hence, you have to bring him along as well, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said as he took a glance at Han Li. A slightly hesitant look appeared on Silver Fox's face upon hearing this. I think that's fine. We've been observing fellow Taoist Li for a few days now, and I can tell that he's not a member of the heavenly court, so why don't we have him come along, CHUANKONG said. In that case, I'll extend the invitation to fellow Taoist Li as well, Silver Fox replied with a nod. I appreciate the kind offer, but I only saved fellow Taoist Hot Flame as he's a friend of mine, and I wanted to repay some favors that he had done for me in the past. I don't have much interest in these true mantra sect ruins that you speak of, so I think we should go our separate ways, Han Li said. Everyone was quite surprised to hear this. Fellow Taoist Li, perhaps you're unaware of just how powerful the Reincarnation Palace is. If you go with them, you'll be able to use their power and resources, and that'll save you a lot of trouble. Even if you don't want to go to the true mantra sect ruins, at least accompany us until we get to a safe place before going off on your own, Immortal Lord Hot Flame hurriedly said to Han Li through voice transmission. As you're aware, I'm currently dealing with my baleful decay, and that's already taking up all of my time and energy, so I really don't have the spare capacity to pursue anything else. No one from the Immortal Palace was there to bear witness to the part that I played in that battle, so as long as I proceed with caution, I should be all right, Han Li replied, doing so openly instead of through voice transmission. He was well aware of just how powerful the Reincarnation Palace was, and he could tell that Immortal Lord Hot Flame was genuinely thinking for his benefit. But at the moment, his sole focus was to overcome his baleful decay, so he had no interest in exploring any ruins. CHUANKONG and Silver Fox exchanged a glance with each other upon hearing this, but neither of them said anything. Immortal Lord Hot Flame could see that Han Li's mind was already made up, and he said, "In that case, it appears that this is where we'll part ways. I'll repay you for everything that you've done for me when we meet again." "May we meet again someday," Han Li said as he cupped his fist in a parting salute. Immortal Lord Hot Flame returned his salute, and Han Li gave CHUANKONG and Silver Fox a nod, before flying out of the window as a streak of azure light, instantly vanishing into the distance. I'm sure the two of you are already aware that the ruins are in the black soil Immortal region. When do we set off? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked. There's no hurry, we're still missing one person, Silver Fox replied with a smile. In any case, let's leave this place right away. The confounding formations that we set up earlier may not be enough to fool those immortal envoys, and perhaps they could even be on their way here as we speak, CHUANKONG said. As soon as his voice trailed off, he made a hand seal, and a burst of silver light appeared in front of him, giving off powerful spatial fluctuations. The silver light quickly inundated all three of them, and they vanished from the tea house. Over 3 years flew by in a flash. In an undulating black mountain range in the Black Mountain Immortal region was a short and unremarkable mountain between a pair of taller mountains. There was a completely overgrown stone path in a mountain in the forest, and it led to a run-down Taoist temple with 2 ancient locust trees planted in front of the entrance. The temple had already completely collapsed with the exception of a single side hall, which was covered in moss and vines, and just barely hanging on for dear life. Late at night, a faint white light could be seen through the dilapidated windows of the side hall, casting elongated shadows onto the stone steps outside. An azure-robed man was seated on an old cushion with his legs crossed, and there was a small green vial sitting on the ground in front of him. The man was none other than Han Li, and after parting ways with Immortal Lord Hot Flame, he had left Green Forest Town before teleporting several times in succession using his lightning formation, following which he embarked on a southbound journey on his green jade flying carriage. He would travel by day, then find some places in the wilderness near cities and towns to rest at night, allowing him to avoid other cultivators and demon beasts so that he could focus on his time attribute cultivation arts. The baleful quelling pills that he had taken had expelled much of the baleful chi in his body, so the journey thus far had been a safe and smooth one, but he couldn't visit any major cities where powerful cultivators were present. After a few minutes, a drop of spirit liquid took shape within the heaven-controlling vial from the moonlight that it had absorbed. Han Li flicked a finger toward a nearby pile of lumber to ignite it and start a fire, then picked up the heaven-controlling vial before raising it up to his own eyes. Thanks to the light of the fire, he was able to see through the wall of the vial that there was a drop of liquid slowly rolling around inside. Right as he was contemplating entering the flower branch domain to water his Tao warrior primary beans, the Dragon 5 mask on his face abruptly emerged on its own. Han Li was rather taken aback by this, and he made a hand seal, upon which a beam of red light shot out of the glabella of his mask, producing a projection of a humanoid figure. The figure was over 20 feet tall, almost as tall as the side hall that Han Li was staying in. They were wearing a loose-fitting black robe, and there was a menacing dark red mask on his face. A hint of surprise appeared on Han Li's face, as he discovered that this figure looked exactly like the reincarnation envoy that he had seen in Lu Renjia's memories. "You're Dragon 5, right? It's already been close to 1,000 years since you became a reincarnation disciple, so you'll need to complete a mission for the next 1,000-year period," the reincarnation envoy declared in an indifferent voice. "Has it already been 1,000 years? Time really does fly," Han Li sighed. "Are you going to accept this mission or issue immortal origin stones for exemption?" the reincarnation envoy asked. "Please tell me the contents of the mission first," Han Li said. "For this mission, you'll have to meet up with Fox 3 on Magpie Coop Mountain to assist him in exploring a set of ruins. He'll inform you of the specific details once you meet up with him. As for the reward for the mission, you'll be receiving 20,000 immortal origin stones and an ungraded immortal treasure from Fox 3, in addition to the spoils that you reap from the ruins." the reincarnation envoy explained. A thought occurred to Han Li upon hearing this, and he asked, "Is this Fox 3 the renowned Silver Fox?" "You can ask him that yourself when you meet him," the reincarnation envoy replied in an indifferent voice. Even though this wasn't direct confirmation, Han Li already knew the answer to his question. "If I choose to pay immortal origin stones instead, how much will it cost?" Han Li asked. 50,000, the reincarnation envoy replied. Han Li fell into deep thought upon hearing this. 50,000 was not an insignificant sum, but it wasn't outside of his means either. However, who would be willing to forfeit 50,000 immortal origin stones for nothing? With that in mind, he couldn't help but begin to reconsider the True Mantra sect ruins. He was quite interested in the True Mantra sect, and the main reason why he had turned down the offer to explore the ruins was because he didn't trust Silver Fox and CHUANKONG. However, now that this had become a reincarnation palace mission, things were different. As for his baleful decay, the missions that he had released in the reincarnation palace hadn't received any responses up to this point, so it didn't really matter whether he was in the True Mantra sect ruins or out on the run. "Make up your mind," the reincarnation envoy suddenly urged. "I'll take on the mission," Han Li finally decided. "All right, once you complete the mission, you'll be free for the next 1,000 years, and you can access all of the Reincarnation Palace's resources as long as you issue the corresponding sum of immortal origin stones." The reincarnation envoy replied with a nod. After that, he swept a sleeve through the air to release a burst of silver light, which formed a large map, at the center of which was a glowing red dot, above which were the words Magpie Coop Mountain. Memorize this map. You will have to meet Fox 3 on Magpie Coop Mountain within half a year, and if you're not there by then, you'll be punished on the basis of refusing to complete your mission, the reincarnation envoy said, following which his body began to dissipate. Han Li carefully inspected the map before him, and after identifying several landmarks on the map, he quickly tracked down the mountain range that he was currently in, discovering that its name was Old Indent Mountain. The mountain range wasn't far away from Magpie Coop Mountain, and it would only take around 3 months for him to get there on his flying carriage. Shortly after Han Li memorized the map, it vanished into thin air, and he took a moment to recollect the map in his mind once more, then opened his flower branch domain and stepped into it. Over 3 months later, 3 figures were seated around an intricately crafted white jade table on a lone mountain that was several thousand feet tall. Each of them was holding a silver cup, and they were exchanging toasts with one another. The cups were filled with dark red wine that was giving off a slightly astringent aroma, and one of the 3 figures was a black-robed young man who was holding a cup in one hand and a silver wine flagon in the other, occasionally drinking straight out of the flagon whenever the mood struck him. The flagon seemed to become some type of treasure with a limitless capacity, and it seemed as if its contents were never going to run out. Sitting across from the black-robed young man was a white-haired elderly man, and he said, "Fellow Taoist Li was also an avid wine enthusiast. If he hadn't left, I'm sure you two would have bonded over your shared love for wine." These 3 were none other than Immortal Lord Hot Flame's trio. "Is that right? What a pity." Having said that, he had already made up his mind, so we weren't going to convince him to stay, Fox 3 replied with a smile. CHUANKONG was looking at the distant scenery in an absent-minded manner, taking no interest in the wine as he asked, "When is the final member of our party going to arrive, Fox 3? He should be here in a month or 2. The higher-ups are taking this mission quite seriously, so I'm sure the one that they've chosen to complete our party was carefully selected," Fox 3 replied. As soon as his voice trailed off, his eyes suddenly lit up slightly as he chuckled. "Looks like he's a little earlier than I expected." Right at this moment, a streak of green light shot forth from afar, then drew to a halt up above, following which an azure figure descended in front of the trio. Fox 3 and the others were astonished to see this azure figure. "What are you doing here, fellow Taoist Li?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame exclaimed with a surprised and elated expression. "Long time no see, fellow Taoists," Han Li said with a smile as he cupped his fist in a salute. Fox 3 and CHUANKONG exchanged an uncertain glance with one another. "Are you the one sent by our reincarnation palace to assist us on this mission?" Fox 3 asked. "That's right. As it turns out, my current 1,000-year mission is to assist you in exploring the true mantra sect ruins," Han Li sighed. He wiped a hand over his own face as he spoke, and his Dragon 5 mask was revealed. Fox 3 carefully inspected the mask for a moment, following which he suddenly exclaimed, "So you're Dragon 5? "Oh, you've heard of me?" Han Li asked as he reverted back to his original appearance. "I heard from Worm 3 that you're an exceptional prodigy in both pill refinement and cultivation. I've always wanted to meet you, but I didn't think my wish would be granted so soon," Fox 3 replied with a smile. It was Immortal Lord Hot Flame's turn to be in disbelief now, and he turned to Han Li as he asked, "Fellow Taoist Li, you're also a member of the Reincarnation Palace." "My apologies for keeping this identity from you," Han Li said as he cupped his fist toward Immortal Lord Hot Flame in an apologetic salute. He had considered altering his appearance before coming here, but that didn't seem like a good idea. He had resided in the Leisure Valley alongside Immortal Lord Hot Flame for quite some time, and if he were to come here under an alternate identity, there was a very good chance that Immortal Lord Hot Flame would eventually catch on, and that would likely attract him much suspicion from Fox 3 and CHUANKONG. Hence, it was better for him to come clean right away to avoid potential misunderstandings. "There's no need to apologize, fellow Taoist Li. After all, I hadn't been entirely forthcoming with you, either," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a wry smile. "The fact that we all know each other certainly makes things easier," CHUANKONG said with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Hua was just telling me about how you and I are both avid wine enthusiasts. Come, let's have a drink before we discuss anything else," Fox 3 said with a wide smile. Han Li didn't turn down the offer, and he sat down across from CHUANKONG, where he was handed a silver cup. Back in the Leisure Valley, Immortal Lord Hot Flame was second only to Taoist Master Jingyang when it came to his penchant for drinking, and it seemed like Fox 3 shared this interest. Fox 3 was a little loose and lackadaisical in his personality and demeanor, but that didn't bother Han Li. Black Mountain Immortal Region, Origin Turtle Continent, Flowing Cloud City. The Origin Turtle Continent was situated on the southeastern border of the Black Mountain Immortal Region, while Flowing Cloud City was on the southernmost tip of the Origin Turtle Continent. However, despite its secluded location, it was one of the most prosperous megacities in the Black Mountain Immortal Region. The city walls were so tall that they were almost concealed in the clouds, and the city was filled with wide streets and countless tall and majestic buildings stretching as far as the eyes could see. There were people everywhere, as well as streaks of light whizzing through the sky, presenting an incredibly bustling and prosperous sight to behold. This was a coastal city, so outside the city was the boundless Black Sea. The surface of the sea was churning violently, and there were enormous waves passing through one after another. This sea was referred to as the Violent Sea, and the conditions here were terrible all year round, making for an extremely hostile environment. Despite the terrible conditions in the Violent Sea, it harbored a vast abundance of the world's origin chi, so it was home to countless demon beasts and precious spirit materials. Hence, countless cultivators flocked to Flowing Cloud City to venture into the Violent Sea in search of treasures, and that was how the city had become so prosperous over time. The other important reason for the city's prosperity was that it was home to a teleportation formation that led to the black soil Immortal region. The four allied Immortal regions weren't separated by primordial lands, but they weren't directly connected to one another either, and there were some perilous terrains to be traversed between them. The violent sea was the obstacle that stood between the Black Mountain Immortal region and the Black Soil Immortal region. At the center of Flowing Cloud City was a giant white mountain that extended all the way up into the clouds, and there were countless buildings constructed on the mountain. From afar, the entire mountain resembled a giant beehive, presenting a spectacular sight to behold. Halfway up the mountain was a three-story white pagoda, hanging above the entrance of which was a plaque that was several dozen feet in size, bearing the words, "Flying Immortal Hall." This was the teleportation hall of Flowing Cloud City, and it was entirely constructed from white jade blocks. After stepping into the hall and passing through a white corridor, one would arrive in a giant white hall that was several thousand feet in size. To the left of the hall was a rectangular white jade table, behind which stood several golden-robed heavenly court cultivators who were processing documents for the cultivators lined up in front of the table. To the right of the hall were dozens of teleportation formations of different sizes, beside each of which stood a jade plaque that denoted the destination of the formation. These teleportation formations were all buzzing incessantly, while occasionally flashing with white light, teleportation cultivators in and out of the city. Right at this moment, a burst of blinding wind light erupted within one of the teleportation formations, and around a dozen figures emerged within it. Among them was a group of 4 figures, 3 young men and a white-haired elderly man, and they were none other than Han Lee's group. All 4 of them had altered their appearances somewhat in order to avoid trouble. They had traveled here mostly through teleportation formations, only occasionally traveling by flight instead whenever some trouble arose, and it had taken them over 30 years to finally arrive at Flowing Cloud City. "We're finally here. Let's go," Fox 3 said as he made his way out of the teleportation formation. "Are we not going to take a teleportation formation from here? The violent sea is not going to be easy to traverse," Immortal Lord Hot Flame hurriedly asked. Taking interregion teleportation formations is different from traveling on normal teleportation formations. The checks are very stringent, so we have to make some preparations first, Fox 3 explained through voice transmission. Immortal Lord Hot Flame gave a slight nod upon hearing this and followed along, as did Han Li and CHUANKONG. Fox 3 had spent countless years traveling from one immortal region to another, accruing a tremendous amount of experience as a result, so he was responsible for organizing the itinerary for this trip. In fact, it was no exaggeration to say that he had played a vital role in getting everyone to Flowing Cloud City safely. He seemed lackadaisical and unreliable on the surface, but in reality, he possessed impeccable attention to detail and often considered things in a more in-depth fashion than his companions. The 4 of them quickly made their way out of the White Pagoda, which was situated at quite a high altitude, so the city down below and the violent sea outside were all clearly visible from this vantage point. "So this is the violent sea. It really is a spectacular sight," Hanley praised as he looked out at the turbulent sea in the distance. Bursts of thunderous rumbling were ringing out incessantly from afar, and even Tay White Mountain was trembling slightly. "This is nothing. The waves deep in the violent sea are far more massive, and that's where the real fun is," Fox 3 said with a smile. "Oh, have you ventured deep into the violent sea before, fellow Taoist Fox 3? Hanley asked with a surprised expression. "That was a very long time ago. On that occasion, I was also traveling to the Black Soil Immortal region from Flowing Cloud City. At the time, I decided on the spur of the moment that I would cross the violent sea, and it took me several decades to complete the journey, Fox 3 replied with a smile. I've heard that not only is the violent sea home to all types of demon beasts, there's also a very special race of beings residing there. Not only are they extremely powerful themselves, they can control the marine demon beasts in battle, and with all of the natural hazards present in the violent sea to boot, very few people are able to make that journey, Han Li said. Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and CHUANKONG turned to Fox 3 with intrigued expressions upon hearing this. You're a very knowledgeable man, Brother Li. The violent sea is indeed a very dangerous place. In particular, that race of sea-dwelling beings that you spoke of are extremely resentful of human cultivators, and very few people can survive an encounter with them. I was unfortunate enough to have been pursued by those beings during my journey, and they hunted me for over a decade. In the end, I was only able to escape using a spatial immortal talisman, but I still sustained some injuries in the process, Fox 3 said with a hint of lingering fear in his eyes. May I ask what your cultivation base was back then? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked in a hesitant manner. That was many years ago. At the time, I had just progressed to the high zenith stage, so my ego was severely inflated, and that was what led me to do something so foolish, Fox 3 chuckled. Han Li was astonished to hear this. He had witnessed Fox 3 in battle, and the fact that he was unable to cross the violent sea at the early high zenith stage was sufficient testament to just how dangerous a place it was. I've heard that there are great encompassment stage beings among the race of sea-dwelling beings. Even the heavenly court couldn't eradicate them, and that was why it had gone to such great lengths to construct this interregion teleportation formation, Fox 3 continued. I see, Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a nod. Let's go and find an inn in the city to stay in for now, Fox 3 said, then took flight and departed from the pagoda. Han Li's trio followed along, and the four of them quickly arrived in a clean and quiet inn, where they booked 4 rooms. After setting down some belongings in his room, Han Li made his way to Fox 3's room and asked him what measures they had to take in order to access the interregion teleportation formation. There's no hurry. It's not every day that we get to come to Flowing Cloud City, so it would be a great pity if we left so quickly. I know of a restaurant in the city that serves exceptional dishes and wine. Let's go have a meal there before discuss anything else. Instead of answering Han Li's question, Fox 3 began to enthusiastically introduce all of the fine restaurants in the city, much to Han Li's exasperation. On the way here, whenever they passed through a city, Fox 3 would be sure to explore all of the delicacies that the city had to offer, and at times, they would even stay in a city for half a month at a time, thereby severely delaying their itinerary. Did I hear fine wine? At this moment, Immortal Lord Hot Flame and CHUANKONG also entered the room, and the former was immediately enthused upon hearing mention of delectable wine. It's been hard work traveling all this way, so it would be good to take a rest, CHUANKONG said with a faint smile. I couldn't have said it better myself, Brother Shi. Let's go right away, Fox 3 said in an eager voice as he patted CHUANKONG on the shoulder, then made his way out of the room. Han Li could only heave an internal sigh before following along. He wasn't all that interested in the delicacies that the city had to offer, but it would be rather unbecoming of him to refuse to go along. Fox 3 led Han Li's trio through a series of twists and turns in the city, and they soon arrived at an opulent 5-story restaurant. The bottom 2 levels of the restaurant were normal dining areas consisting of open halls filled with large tables, while the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors were dedicated solely to VIP booths. Even though it wasn't mealtime yet, the first 2 floors were already laden with people, and all of the patrons were cultivators of decent cultivation bases. Furthermore, there were also many cultivators lined up outside the restaurant, just like one would see in a mortal restaurant, and Han Li's trio was quite surprised to see this. Fox 3 didn't seem to be surprised at all to see this, and he made his way into the restaurant, then pulled out a badge before waving it at an approaching waiter. "Welcome, esteemed guests, please come with me." As soon as the waiter caught a glimpse of the badge, he immediately led the group to a booth on the 5th floor. All of the furniture in the booth was very tasteful and refined, striking a good balance between luxury and practicality, and as soon as Fox 3 sat down, he immediately rattled off a long order, capped off by a large flagon of wine that was around a foot in height. Wisps of white mist were rising up out of the mouth of the flagon, before slowly dissipating in the air, releasing a peculiar aroma that immediately drew the interest of Immortal Lord Hot Flame and CHUANKONG. "This is some exceptional wine," Immortal Lord Hot Flame praised with an excited gleam in his eyes. "Of course, most of the people who come to this restaurant are here for this wine," Fox 3 said as he poured everyone a cup of wine each, then downed his own cup of wine in one go, following which a blissful look appeared on his face. Han Li took a sip from his own cup of wine, and his eyes also lit up. The wine was a transparent amber color, and it coated his entire tongue in an indescribable rich fragrance that slowly seeped through his entire body. The flavor of the wine consisted of a combination of over 100 different exquisite flavors, some of which he was familiar with, some of which he had never tasted, and some of which he had never even thought of. Despite the vast abundance of flavors, all of them were able to shine through without any particular stealing too much of the spotlight, and it was more exquisite than any wine that Han Li had ever tasted. "How truly exquisite! What is the name of this wine?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked after taking a sip out of his cup. "This wine is called Amber Immortal, and it's the main reason why this restaurant is so famous. Whenever the Heavenly Court holds its gathering of immortals, this Amber Immortal is always the drink of choice," Fox 3 introduced. "What's this gathering of immortals?" Han Li asked as he set down his cup. "It's an event held by the Heavenly Court. Every once in a while, the Heavenly Court will gather all of the palace masters of the immortal palaces to the Heavenly Court to discuss certain important matters, and it could be said that this is the most important event on the Heavenly Court calendar," Fox 3 explained. A contemplative look appeared in Han Li's eyes upon hearing this, but Fox 3 paid no heed to this as he began digging into the meal. CHUANKONG also seemed to be quite an avid foodie, while Immortal Lord Hot Flame was much more interested in the Amber Immortal and was having one cup after another. Before long, the entire table of dishes and wine had been devoured, and Fox 3 patted his own slightly bulging belly as he sighed. "Nothing compares with the feeling of a good meal. What's the point in working so hard in cultivation if you can't even enjoy the finer things in life?" "I agree," Immortal Lord Hot Flame concurred loudly, while CHUANKONG remained silent. "Now that we're all fed, let's discuss how we're going to get to the Black Soil Immortal region," Han Li said as he set down his cup. At the same time, he made a hand seal to conjure up an azure light barrier around the entire booth. "Do you ever relax, Brother Li?" Fox 3 complained in a lazy voice. Brother Li is right. Flowing Cloud City is a major city in the Black Mountain Immortal region, so it's constantly under strict surveillance from the Heavenly Court. Hence, it's best for us to leave this place as soon as possible," CHUANKONG said with a serious expression, while Immortal Lord Hot Flame also nodded in agreement. "Fine, fine, let's get serious then," Fox 3 sighed as he put away his joking expression. "Just as Brother She said, Flowing Cloud City is constantly under heavy surveillance from the Heavenly Court. In particular, that interregion teleportation formation is very closely monitored, and anyone who wishes to use it must undergo stringent examinations," Fox 3 said. What does that entail? Han Li asked. There are two areas of scrutiny, the first of which pertains to one's identity. In order to access the interregion teleportation formation, one requires an official identity that's recognized by the Black Mountain Immortal region. That's not difficult to arrange as long as we're willing to spend the immortal origin stones. The problem is the examination by Heavenly Mirror, Fox 3 explained. What's this Heavenly Mirror? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked. It's a sensory formation developed by the Heavenly Court, and it's extremely sensitive to auras. It has a memory function, and it's said to be holding information pertaining to all fugitives currently wanted by the Heavenly Court, including their appearance, the cultivation arts and immortal treasures that they use, etc. For wanted fugitives like ourselves, we could easily fall prey to this Heavenly Mirror formation, and I'm sure I don't need to explain what'll transpire if that happens, Fox 3 replied. A sensory formation that can record all of the information of the Heavenly Court's wanted fugitives. That's very impressive, Han Li praised. I'm not a fan of the Heavenly Court, but it's undeniably a vastly powerful and resourceful organization that is unmatched in many areas. However, setting up a Heavenly Mirror formation is extremely costly and complicated, so they're only present in a handful of important locations, Fox 3 said. Everyone else nodded in response. Brother SHI, after what happened back in Jade Gathering City, you're most likely on the immortal slaying list as well, and the same applies to Brother Huo, so the two of you need to find ways to completely conceal your auras to avoid detection, Fox 3 said as he turned to CHUANKONG and Immortal Lord Hot Flame, both of whom nodded in response once again with contemplative expressions. As for Brother Li, I don't know if you're wanted by the Heavenly Court, but the Heavenly Mirror formation's primary function is to catch members of the Reincarnation Palace, so you have to be careful as well. I can sense that there's an abnormally high abundance of baleful qi in your body. I can also see that you're somehow concealing it, but the concealment isn't perfect, and you'll definitely be caught by the Heavenly Mirror formation, Fox 3 said. Han Li's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. He had constantly been taking Origin Void pills to conceal the baleful qi in his body, but Fox 3 was somehow able to see through it right away. I'm currently facing a baleful decay, so there's naturally going to be more baleful qi in my body than normal. Surely everyone at this stage in their cultivation will have the same problem. Is that alone enough for the Heavenly Court to accuse me of being a member of the Reincarnation Palace? Han Li asked. No matter who it is, as long as they're determined to possess an abnormally high amount of baleful qi in their body, they'll immediately be captured by the Heavenly Court. As for why that is, I'm not sure myself, Fox 3 said. Han Li faltered slightly upon hearing this, following which a thought occurred to him. It was clear that the Heavenly Court wasn't doing this for no reason. There seemed to be some type of connection between the Reincarnation Palace and Gray Immortals, and the most prominent trait of Gray Immortals is baleful qi. In terms of baleful qi concealment, I have something that could work, Fox 3 said after a brief hesitation. Oh, please enlighten me, Brother Fox, Han Li said as he cupped his fist in a salute. Fox 3 flipped a hand over to produce a silver jade vial, then tossed it at Han Li. Han Li caught the vial before removing the stopper, and a small silver pill rolled out from inside. To his surprise, the pill was different in color from the Origin Void pill, but it possessed a very similar aura, except this pill's aura was far more pronounced. What is this? Han Li asked as he turned to Fox 3. This is an Origin Baleful pill that's very effective for concealing the aura of baleful qi, Fox 3 replied. This must be a very precious pill. I can't just take it from you, Han Li said with a hesitant expression. It's fine, I don't have any use for it anyway, so why not give it to someone who can actually make use of it? Fox 3 replied, brushing off Han Li's concerns. Han Li turned his gaze back to the pill, and after carefully inspecting it momentarily with his spiritual sense, he didn't hesitate any longer before taking the pill. As soon as he swallowed the pill, it immediately melted into a burst of cool energy that flowed through his entire body, suppressing all of the baleful chi that it encountered. Even the baleful chi vortexes in his immortal acupoints had virtually completely stopped revolving, and it didn't take long before most of the baleful chi in his body had been suppressed, much to his elation. Furthermore, the origin baleful pill still hadn't been completely refined yet, so its baleful chi concealment effect still hadn't been fully realized. By Han Li's estimates, the pill's effect could last for around a decade. Do you have any more of these origin baleful pills, or perhaps the pill recipe, fellow Taoist Fox 3? I'm willing to purchase them from you or exchange other items for them, Han Li said. I'm afraid not. I only secured this pill by chance, so I don't have any more pills or the recipe, Fox 3 replied with a shake of his head. In that case, would you be able to tell me where you got this pill from? Han Li asked. Prior to reaching the high zenith stage, I saw someone purchase a vial of origin baleful pills for 1,000 immortal origin stones at an underground exchange convention, so I decided to steal it. There were 2 pills in the vial, and I used one of them. As for where these pills came from, I have no clue, Fox 3 replied. Han Li fell silent upon hearing this. Shortly thereafter, he raised his head and summoned a storage tool as he said, "In any case, I have to thank you, Brother Fox. Here are 500 immortal origin stones for the pill. Don't bring money into this. I'm giving this pill to you as a friend," Fox 3 said as he rose to his feet, refusing the storage tool being handed to him. "Just accept the pill. Fox 3 isn't going to hold a grudge against you for it," CHUANKONG said with a smile. "You have my thanks, fellow Taoist Fox 3, Han Li said as he cupped his fist in a grateful salute. "I've been to this city quite a few times, so just leave the matter of official identities to me. Give me a few days, and I'll have that sorted out, but you'll have to find your own ways to deal with the heavenly mirror formation. Let me warn you that this is not to be taken lightly, so don't think you can just get by with some half-arsed scheme," Fox 3 said with a serious expression, then vanished from the spot as a burst of silver light, leaving Han Li's trio behind with grim looks on their faces. Shortly thereafter, the 3 of them also departed from the restaurant and returned to the inn. Close to half a month later, Han Li's trio were gathered in Fox 3's room, and Fox 3 himself had just returned, looking a little weary, but also rather excited. "It looks like all of you are well prepared," Fox 3 remarked with a nod and a smile. At this moment, the only thing that remained unchanged about Han Li's trio was their appearances, while everything else had undergone a complete transformation. CHUANKONG had changed into a white robe, and his devilish aura had completely faded, replaced by a burst of pure yang attribute aura fluctuations. Immortal Lord Hot Flame was holding a purple cane with arcs of purple lightning occasionally flashing over its surface, and the fiery power in his body had transformed into an aura of lightning that resonated perfectly with his purple cane. Han Li had also changed into some different clothes, and there were bursts of water attribute energy fluctuations emanating out of his body. During the past few days, he hadn't set foot outside of the inn at all, focusing all of his efforts on refining the origin baleful pill to suppress the baleful chi in his body. At the same time, he had stowed everything that could expose him, including his azure bamboo cloudswarm swords, the profound heavenly gourd, Taoist Zai, the flame of essence, and even the storage tools that he normally used into the flower branch domain. As an additional safety precaution, Han Li had even set up a formation inside the flower branch domain that encompassed everything and masked their auras, including even Mo Guang. "You issued us a very serious warning last time, so we had to take you seriously," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a smile. Fox 3 nodded in response, then pulled out 3 identification tokens before handing them to Han Li's trio. The tokens were yellow badges that seemed to have been crafted out of some type of wooden material. Han Li glanced at his own badge to find his name etched on it, but only his Li surname had been preserved, while the rest of his name had been altered. On the other side was a hexagonal floral design, and it seemed to be the emblem of some clan or sect. Right now, we are outer sect elders of the Flowing Sand Continent's Heavenly Sand sect. We are currently traveling to the Black Soil Immortal region to purchase some cultivation resources under orders from our sect master, Fox 3 said. As he was speaking, his body began to slowly transform within a layer of warped white light, and he quickly transformed into a white-haired young man with a completely different aura from before. Han Li's trio collectively nodded in response, and the 4 of them emerged from the room before flying toward the giant white mountain in the city, arriving at the entrance of the Flying Immortal Hall once again. Just like last time, the Flying Immortal Hall was very busy, with many cultivators entering and exiting the building. Instead of entering through the main entrance, Fox 3 led Han Li's trio to a side entrance, at the foot of which was a staircase. The 4 of them had only just stepped onto the staircase when Fox 3 suddenly turned around and instructed, "Each of you, give me 200 Immortal Origin Stones." Han Li's trio faltered slightly upon hearing this. "What for?" CHUANKONG asked. "To avoid some trouble, of course," Fox 3 replied with a mysterious grin. This was not a very satisfactory answer, but Han Li's trio had no reason to doubt him, so they did as they were told, giving him 200 Immortal Origin Stones each. After that, the 4 of them quickly scaled the staircase and arrived in a white hall. There were several Heavenly Court cultivators standing inside, and as soon as Han Li's group entered the room, the cultivator closest to them, a silver-haired young man, immediately approached them with a warm smile as he asked, "Are you planning to use the interregion teleportation formation, seniors?" The other people in the hall were a little vexed upon seeing this, but none of them said anything. "That's right," Fox 3 replied with a nod. The silver-haired young man was ecstatic to hear this, and he immediately said, "Please come with me, seniors." The young man led Han Li's group into another hall, within which was a stone table with an imposing man seated behind it, and an elderly man standing beside him. The imposing man was a golden immortal, and the golden robe that he wore was far more luxurious than the ones worn by the silver-haired young man and the elderly man. The imposing man immediately turned to Han Li's group upon hearing their footsteps, and the silver-haired young man reported, "Administrator Fang, these seniors wish to use the interregion teleportation formation." The imposing man nodded in response, then turned to Han Li's group as he declared, "The teleportation fee is 1,000 Immortal Origin Stones per person. Before that, I have to verify your identification information and conduct a screening process by having all of you pass through an inspection formation." Han L's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this. Fox 3 hadn't informed them of the teleportation fee prior to this, and Han Li was quite surprised by how expensive it was. 1,000 Immortal Origin Stones was enough to purchase a graded immortal treasure, albeit only one of the lowest grade. "Here are our identity tokens," Fox 3 said with a smile as he summoned his wooden badge before handing it to the imposing man, and Han Li's trio quickly followed suit. The man fished a gold-covered book out of his robe pocket, then waved it at the wooden badges, and the book released a beam of golden light that enveloped the 4 badges. Immediately thereafter, a layer of golden light emerged over the book, and some lines of text and accompanying images appeared on its pages. "So the 4 of you are elders of the Heavenly Sand sect. "Why are you traveling to the black soil Immortal region?" the man asked. "We are under instructions from our sect master to purchase a batch of pill refinement ingredients from the black soil Immortal region," Fox 3 replied as he took a step forward, then covertly stuffed a storage ring into the man's hand. The man briefly inspected the contents of the storage ring with his spiritual sense, and his demeanor instantly softened significantly. "I see. That certainly is a long way to travel just to purchase some pill refinement ingredients. There are no issues with your identification tokens. Come with me," the burly man said as he rose to his feet, then returned the 4 wooden badges to Han Li's group while leading the way deeper into the hall, followed by the silver-haired young man and the elderly man. Han Li's group was led into another hall that was completely constructed from a type of silver stone material that was emitting a fluorescent glow. At the center of the hall was a circular golden formation that was several hundred feet in size. There were countless complex and intertwining formation patterns within the formation, and there were also 8 golden pillars around it, each of which stood at several dozen feet tall. The stone pillars and the walls of the hall were also riddled with formation patterns that were connected to the formation down below, and atop each pillar sat a golden-robed cultivator, all of whom were currently meditating with their eyes closed. Hovering directly above the golden formation was a massive golden mirror, and the air within the formation was buzzing incessantly. An intrigued look appeared in Han Li's eyes upon seeing this. "So this is the heavenly mirror formation. Activate the formation and conduct a close examination. Make sure not to miss even the smallest of details," the imposing man instructed with a serious expression. The 8 golden-robed cultivators opened their eyes before chanting an incantation, while releasing a string of golden incantation seals. A burst of radiant golden light interspersed with countless golden runes immediately erupted out of formation, forming a pillar of golden light that surged into the mirror up above. A series of golden patterns instantly appeared on the mirror before rapidly spreading outward, quickly filling the entire mirror. These golden patterns formed a series of strange designs that resembled blinking golden eyes, and waves of golden ripples surged out of these eyes to encompass the formation down below. "Please take turns walking through the formation, fellow Taoists," the imposing man said as he turned to Han Li's group. The 4 of them exchanged a glance with one another, following which Fox 3 led the way, stepping into the golden formation first. The formation rippled slightly, and countless threads of golden light emerged from the formation patterns on the surrounding pillars, gently roaming over Fox 3's entire body like feelers. The ripples surging out of the eyes on the golden mirror also brightened slightly while fusing as one, forming a series of golden halos that encompassed Fox 3's body. Fox 3 remained calm and collected as he made his way forward, and he quickly made his way to the other side of the formation without any incident. Han Li heaved an internal sigh of relief upon seeing this. Next, the imposing man said as he beckoned to Han Li's trio. CHUANKONG was the second one to make his way into the golden formation, and the same inspection process was carried out. Just like Fox 3, CHUANKONG was also able to make it out of the formation without any incident. Before the imposing man had a chance to speak again, Han Li stepped into the golden formation in a calm manner. As soon as Han Li stepped into the formation, he immediately felt a burst of indescribable pressure weighing down upon his body. He felt as if he were standing on a seabed with a boundless volume of water above him, and in that instant, he was completely immobilized. The threads of golden light converged from all directions, surrounding him before revolving around his body, while a series of golden ripples descended upon him from above. Han Li raised an eyebrow as he felt 2 bursts of power surge into his body from the formation, one gentle and inquisitive, while the other was vast and insistent. The two bursts of power surged through his entire body, inspecting everything that they passed through. Han Li made no attempt to resist these two bursts of power as they only lingered in his body for a brief moment before his mobility was restored, and he continued to make his way out of the formation with a calm expression. Ever since he left the inn, he had been circulating his immortal spiritual power in accordance with the method stipulated in the water divination time arts. On top of that, he had also used a secret technique to seal away the majority of the tremendous energy in his body, concealing most of the aura of his true spirit bloodlines and the great universe origin arts. He had done everything that he could to conceal any information that could expose him, and if the heavenly mirror formation could still identify him, then he would just have to accept such an outcome. The golden formation continued buzzing as the two bursts of power flowed through Han Li's body, lingering momentarily at the seals in his body and in the fingers of his right hand, but ultimately raising no alarm. Han Li heaved an internal sigh of relief, then made it the rest of the way through the formation to arrive by Fox 3 and CHUANKONG's side. The two of them gave Han Li a nod, then turned their attention to Immortal Lord Hot Flame, who had also stepped into the formation at this point, and was able to make it through without incident as well. You can come through to the interregion teleportation formation now, fellow Taoists. The teleportation fee will be 1,000 immortal origin stones per person, the imposing man said. Han Li and the others each handed over 1,000 immortal origin stones to the man, and while handing over his teleportation fee, Fox 3 snuck yet another storage ring into the man's hand. A faint smile appeared on his face, and he instructed Han Li's group to come with him, then led the way into another hall. There was a teleportation formation that was over 100 feet in size on the ground in the hall, and there were countless silver patterns in the formation, not inferior in number to that of the heavenly mirror formation. Bursts of silver light were flashing incessantly within the formation, giving off formidable spatial fluctuations. Han Li's group made their way into the teleportation formation under instructions from the imposing man, who then swept a sleeve through the air to release 4 streaks of white light, each of which adhered itself to one of Han Li and his companions, revealing themselves to be 4 white triangular talismans. After that, the imposing man summoned a silver badge and began chanting an incantation, and the silver-haired young man and the elderly man also made their way over to the other side of the formation before summoning a jade badge each. The silver light within the teleportation formation instantly brightened significantly, and Han Li's group vanished shortly thereafter. Following the successful teleportation, the flashing light and spatial fluctuations in the formation quickly subsided, and the silver-haired young man and the elderly man made their way over to the imposing man's side. "You too can have these immortal origin stones," the imposing man said as he summoned a storage tool before tossing them at the two men. The two of them were ecstatic, and they immediately extended a collective curtsy. "Thank you, Administrator Fang." Only after the imposing man had departed did the two of them open the storage ring to find 100 immortal origin stones inside, with each of them claiming half. I'd always heard that working on the second floor of the Flying Immortal Hall was a very lucrative job, but I didn't think it was this good. At this rate, it won't take long before I can afford a graded immortal treasure, the silver-haired young man said in an excited manner. "Of course, why else do you think so many people want to come here?" the elderly man chuckled. The two of them chatted for a while longer, then departed from the hall. In the northern region of the Black Soil Immortal region was a long and thin continent by the name of the Black Dragon Continent. The northern part of the continent was filled with mountains and rivers with extreme topographic variance and very complex terrains. Due to the special terrain in the region, there were very many cities there, but very few large ones. And the largest of all of the continent's northern cities was Black Glaze City, which was situated in the Drawer Beam mountain range. Even though the northern region of the black soil Immortal region was very sparsely populated, it wasn't a very perilous place. Instead, it was rife with all types of precious spirit soils, and as a result, it was home to many spirit medicines and mountain spirits. Many of the trading houses in the nearby Immortal regions that were in the spirit medicine business saw this place as a blessing from the heavens, and there were many branches of these trading houses established nearby, harvesting and planting spirit medicines while also mining for mineral and spirit soil resources. Black Glaze City derived its name from a special type of black spirit soil found in the Drawer Beam mountain range. Black glaze soil contained abundant spiritual chi, but it couldn't be used for planting spirit medicines. Instead, it was far better suited to being fired into puppets. Due to its unique cohesiveness and spiritual chi retention properties, introducing certain ratios of black glaze soil during the puppet refinement process could significantly increase the chances of successful refinement, as well as the caliber of the final puppet. It was exactly because of this that black glaze soil was extremely sought after, and following the past close to 1 million years of excavation, almost all of the black glaze soil in the entire mountain range had been exhausted. With all of the underground black glaze soil, reserves emptied out. The entire Drawer Beam mountain range had sunk downward. As a result, it had become a flatter and smoother area than nearby places, thereby making it an ideal site for constructing large ferry stations for ships to dock at. Hence, starting from over 100,000 years ago, all mining activities had ceased in the Drawer Beam mountain range. Several large ferry stations had been constructed in some areas of the mountain range, while the rest of it had been covered in spirit soil and converted into spirit medicine fields. As for the central area of the mountain range, a giant underground city had been constructed there, and that was Black Glaze City. The city bore several hundred kilometers deep into the earth and was split up into 7 levels, thereby giving it its alternative name of Sevenfold City. On the deepest 7th level of the city was a large teleportation hall that received cultivators who had come from the nearby Black Mountain Immortal region. At this moment, there were 4 figures making their way out of the teleportation hall, and they were none other than Han Li's group. Fox 3 and CHUANKONG were leading the way, while Han Li and Immortal Lord Hot Flame trailed along behind them, and the latter was looking rather tense. "What's wrong, fellow Taoist Hot Flame? Are you feeling a little uneasy now that we've returned to the Black Soil Immortal region?" Han Li asked with a smile. The Black Mountain Immortal region isn't far away from the Black Soil Immortal region, but I've never dared to come back here. Hence, I don't know what this Immortal region is like now, and I can't help but feel a little apprehensive, Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a wry smile. This Black Soil Immortal region really does seem to be a unique place. I've never seen a teleportation hall constructed so deep underground. Han Li inspected his surroundings to discover that the ceiling of the hall was extremely tall, and there was a series of giant glowing jewels embedded into it, giving off dazzling radiance that illuminated the entire space. The hall behind him was embedded into the rock face, while up ahead was a spacious hall, and there were 2 wide passageways branching off from the hall, leading to the left and the right. Right now, we are inside an underground city constructed out of a mine. In addition to this teleportation hall, there are also many inns and shops down here. I'll take you on a tour of the nearby area so you get to see what this place is all about, Fox 3 said to Han Li, seemingly quite familiar with the area. "I'm looking forward to it," Han Li replied with a smile. The 4 of them made their way down the passageway on the left, and sure enough, There was a series of buildings embedded into the mountain faces on either side of the passageway, and there were many signs outside the buildings, just like one would expect to see in inns and shops in normal cities. You won't find many merchants or travelers on the 7th level of the city, but the branches of all of the major trading houses have been set up here, and the two largest inns in the city are also on this level. Fox 3 introduced as the group made its way down the boardwalk. They passed through an arched opening, then walked a few hundred meters before arriving in a spacious hall. There was a 2-story stone archway situated in the hall near the mountain face, and there were all types of intricate designs engraved upon it, presenting a mesmerizing sight to behold. At the top of the archway was a huge plaque that bore the words, "100 Creations Pavilion," in large, golden characters. Han Li had stopped in front of the archway and was looking up at the plaque, and upon noticing this, CHUANKONG asked, "Do you want to take a look inside, fellow Taoist Li?" "Does this place have anything to do with the 100 Creations Mountain?" Han Li asked. "Have you not heard of 100 Creations Pavilions, fellow Taoist Li? The 100 Creations Mountain is renowned across the entire true immortal realm for its tool refinement prowess, and it has shops set up across many immortal regions in the form of these 100 Creations Pavilions," CHUANKONG explained. "I see. It seems like I really do need to get out more," Han Li replied with a smile. Even though he had spent a lot of time with Taoist master Jingyang in the past, most of the conversations between them pertaining to the 100 Creations Mountain were related to the art of tool refinement, so he wasn't aware of these other facets. "I suppose that's not too surprising. I've heard from fellow Taoist Worm 3 that you've been living in the northern glacial immortal region prior to coming to the Black Mountain immortal region. The northern glacial immortal region is a very secluded place, and I don't think there are any 100 Creations Pavilions there," Fox 3 said. CHUANKONG's brows furrowed ever so slightly upon hearing this, and he turned to take a subtle glance at Han Li. Han Li noticed his gaze and gave him a smile, and CHUANKONG nodded in response before looking away. After walking a few more kilometers, Han Li's group drew to a halt in front of another arched opening. Han Li's trio turned to Fox 3, and the latter said, "In here is one of the teleportation formations leading to the 6th level that I was telling all of you about. There are quite a few more of these littered throughout the city." With that, Fox 3 stepped through the opening, followed by Han Li and the others. As soon as they made their way through the opening, Han Li caught sight of a teleportation formation that was over 100 feet in size on the ground not far away. Beside the formation was a table, behind which sat a green-skinned being that resembled a lizard. At the moment, the foreign being seemed to be sleeping, and it displayed no reaction to the arrival of Han Li's group. Fox 3 made his way over to the table, then tossed a pouch of top-grade spirit stones onto it, then led Han Li and the others into the formation. The green-skinned being took a moment to inspect the contents of the pouch, upon which he discovered that there was an additional tip enclosed on top of the teleportation fee. An elated look appeared on his face as he hurriedly sprang up from behind the table, working to activate the formation while extending a bow toward Fox 3, who nodded in response. Following a flash of light within the formation, Han Li's group vanished from the spot. The green-skinned being turned back to the top-grade spirit stones sitting on the table with an excited expression. Yet right as he was about to inspect the contents of the storage pouch again, his expression suddenly stiffened. He looked down at his own bare fingers, and his elation was instantly replaced by fury. On the 6th level of the city, Fox 3 was playing with a green storage ring as he made his way out of the teleportation hall. "You're going to land yourself in trouble sooner or later if you keep dabbling in petty theft like this," CHUANKONG sighed with a resigned expression. "That was very impressive, fellow Taoist Fox 3. You were able to instantly sever that man's connection with his storage ring without being detected at all, Hanley praised with a smile. Immortal Lord Hot Flame remained silently as he reflexively checked his own storage bracelet, and he was quite relieved to see that it was still there. I've been sticking to the straight and narrow for too long recently, so I was getting a little antsy, Fox 3 chuckled. Upon reaching the 6th level, there was a noticeable increase in the number of people making their way along the boardwalk, and most of them appeared to be human, but there was also a clear increase in the number of foreign beings around. There were also far more shops that lined the mountain faces, and all manners of flags and banners had been hung up outside the shops, most of which were selling spirit soils and spirit plants. But of course, there were also some shops that sold treasures and pills. After that, Han Li's group made their way up a few more levels, and the things were much the same, but the higher they went, the more densely populated the levels became, and as a result, their surroundings also became progressively more bustling and chaotic. However, Fox 3 seemed to be quite fond of this type of chaotic environment, and the higher he went, the more leisurely his pace became. Along the way, he even stopped by a restaurant and treated everyone to a meal. The restaurant was quite renowned for the spirit wine that it served, and Fox 3 had heard that Han Li was an avid wine enthusiast as well, so he offered to gift a few flagons to Han Li. However, having spent so much time with Taoist Hu Yan, Han Li had developed a taste only for the finest spirit wines, and the spirit wine in question wasn't quite up to his standards, so he tactfully turned down the offer. By the time Han Li and the others made their way up to the surface, half a day had already passed by. It was close to night time, and the light of the dying sun was spilling down from the west, basking the city in a warm, red glow. Han Li could see a series of giant docks situated around the outskirts of the city, hovering beside which was a collection of mountainous immortal ships. The true Mantra sect ruins are located somewhere in the illusory smoke swamp of the floating mountain continent, which is, in turn, situated in the central region of the black soil Immortal region. There won't be many teleportation formations along the way, so we'll mostly be traveling by ship, and it'll take us around 30 years to get there, Fox 3 said. Why are we traveling by ship? Surely it'll be faster for us to travel using our flying immortal treasures, Hanley said in a perplexed manner. That's correct, but there are some special rules in the black soil Immortal region, so flight is prohibited in certain areas. There are even some restrictions set up in some places, and if you try to force your way through them, there's a very good chance you'll catch the attention of the Immortal Palace, Fox 3 explained. I didn't know there were so many annoying rules in the black soil Immortal region, Immortal Lord Hot Flame scoffed. There are many spirit fields and mines in the south, most of which are privately owned by the major trading houses, so trespassing is strictly prohibited. On top of that, there are also massive swamps between the continents of the black soil Immortal region, some of which are home to many fearsome demon beasts. In fact, even great encompassment stage demon beasts have been known to prowl those areas, so it would be very dangerous to try and fly through them, Fox 3 explained. These are all rules put in place by the Black Soil Immortal Palace in order to strengthen their control. The rules aren't enforced all that tightly in some more rural places, but things get a little troublesome near the larger cities, CHUANKONG added. All of the ships of the trading houses have set routes that have been registered with the Immortal Palace, so they're able to make the journey without drawing any ire, Fox 3 said. Back when our true Mantra sect was still standing, the Black Soil Immortal region didn't have any of these bullshit rules. Immortal Lord Hot Flame sighed in an indignant and melancholic fashion. In that case, it does sound like traveling by ship is our best option, Hanley said with a nod. Not necessarily. Even though all of the trading houses have registered routes and have issued enormous sums of immortal origin stones to the Immortal Palace, Their ships are still subject to checks at some ferry stations for all manners of arbitrary reasons. In those situations, the ships will either have to accept the checks and be delayed for several months, or issue another sum of immortal origin stones as a toll of sorts, Fox 3 said. That does sound like a real pain in the backside, Han Li said with an amused smile. Thankfully, we won't have to worry about any of that with Brother Shi here with us. Out of all of the ships, only those owned by the 100 Creations Pavilion and the vast Origin House are granted certain privileges, and during most trips, those ships won't be subject to these impromptu checks, Fox 3 said with a smile. The vast Origin House's ferry station is a bit further away from here. Please come with me, CHUANKONG said with a smile, then flew away into the distance. Han Li and the others followed along, and the group began to travel southward. After rising up into the sky, Han Li looked down to discover that there were far more ferry stations on the ground below than he had seen earlier. All of them were spread out in an orderly fashion in an area with a radius of several hundred kilometers. There were also some markets and streets interspersed throughout these ferry stations, presenting a lively and bustling sight to behold. Moments later, the group arrived at a large ferry station before making their way into an administrative hall. There was an elderly administrator inside, who immediately approached Han Li's group at the sight of them. The administrator seemed to be familiar with CHUANKONG, and a wide smile appeared on his face, but right as he was about to speak, CHUANKONG beat him to the punch. "Long time no see, shopkeeper Zhu. I'll have to trouble you again." "Not at all. It's always an honor whenever you come to our ferry station, fellow Taoist SHI. These must be your friends, right? Come in and take a seat, everyone," the elderly man said. He led Han Li's group into a booth as he spoke, then poured cups of tea for everyone before asking, "What brings you here today, fellow Taoist SHI? When is our vast Origin House's ship to the floating mountain continent scheduled to set off?" CHUANKONG asked with a smile. The administrator considered the question for a moment, then replied, "We recently collected a batch of spirit soil, and some of the spirit plants in our fields have also matured. We'll be ready to set off once everything is loaded, and that should only take about half a month." "It sounds like we came at just the right time then," Fox 3 said. "Indeed, you have," shopkeeper Zhu replied with a smile. "There's an arena in Black Glaze City that's opening in a few days. Why don't you go and check it out to kill some time?" CHUANKONG was very intrigued to hear this, and he immediately sat up straighter as he asked, "Is it the Black Fence Arena? What are the draws like?" "That's right. I've heard that there are going to 10 fights, and all of the combatants are high-grade demon beasts captured from the primordial land north of the Black Mountain Immortal region, 2 of which even possess true spirit bloodlines, so it's certainly a stacked draw," shopkeeper Zhu replied. "How about it? If you're interested, we can all go and take a look together, fellow Taoists," CHUANKONG proposed as he turned to Han Li and the others. Han Li was rather amused by CHUANKONG's enthusiasm. Fox 3 was a thief and an avid drinker, while CHUANKONG was a gambler, so they certainly made for a good pair. Having said that, he wasn't interested in watching the arena battles, so he turned down the offer. "I'll pass as well," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a smile. "How about you? Surely you're coming along," CHUANKONG asked as he turned to Fox 3. "Of course I'm going. Why not? You lose in every single bet that you make, so I just have to bet against you and I'm guaranteed to win," Fox 3 declared. "Nonsense, when have I ever lost?" CHUANKONG protested. After chatting here for a while, everyone was arranged places to stay by shopkeeper Zhu. That night, Han Li was meditating in his room when he suddenly received a visit from Immortal Lord Hot Flame. Han Li invited him into the room, then poured him a cup of tea and sat down across from him of silence. Right as the atmosphere in the room was beginning to grow a little awkward, Immortal Lord Hot Flame finally broke the silence. Fellow Taoist Li, I have something to say, but I'm not sure if I should say it. Before he had a chance to finish, Han Li raised a hand to conjure up an invisible light barrier that encompassed the entire room. Go ahead, fellow Taoist Hot Flame, Han Li prompted with a smile. You've been waiting for me, haven't you, fellow Taoist Li? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked with a wry smile. If I were in your shoes, I would also definitely want to find an ally, Han Li said with a smile. That's exactly why I'm here, and it's also why I wanted you to come with us. But you turned down the offer last time before I could bring up this topic, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a resigned shake of his head. If I didn't have so much on my plate already, perhaps I would have agreed at the time. In any case, we're both still traveling together anyway. It's just that both of us are members of the Reincarnation Palace now, Han Li said. A hesitant look flashed through Immortal Lord Hot Flame's eyes upon hearing this, and he was silent for a moment, then said, Fellow Taoist Li, I consider you to be a friend from the time that we spent together in the Leisure Valley, so can I ask you to be candid with me and tell me exact what mission the Reincarnation Palace assigned to you? Does it have anything to do with the Great Five Elemental Illusion Mantra? Truth be told, I'm not a true core member of the Reincarnation Palace, and the mission that I received only requires me to assist Fox 3 in exploring the true Mantra Sect's ruins. As for exactly what his plans are, that's completely unknown to me, Han Li replied in a truthful fashion. I see. I don't trust Fox 3 and CHUANKONG. Ours is only a partnership of convenience, and I don't know what their objectives are. So I want a definitive response from you in regard to whether you'd like to form an alliance with me, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a serious expression. I'm carrying out a mission for the Reincarnation Palace, so there are some things that I must do, but if your life comes under threat, I can't guarantee that I'll do everything in my power to save you, but I definitely won't just stand by and watch, Han Li declared. That's all I need, fellow Taoist Li. I'll be sure to repay you handsomely once all of this is over, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said as he cupped his fist in a salute. Han Li returned his salute, and the two of them chatted for a while longer before Immortal Lord Hot Flame departed. Ali. One morning, around 2 weeks later, Han Li and Immortal Lord Hot Flame arrived at a dock, upon which they discovered that Fox 3 was the only one waiting for them there. Where's fellow Taoist Shi? Han Li asked after greeting Fox 3. Brother, she has some things that he needs to do, so he'll be a little late. Where did the time go? I still haven't had anywhere near enough fun yet. Fox 3 yawned in a lazy manner. It sounds like you went to the arena again yesterday, Han Li remarked with a faint smile. Sure did, Fox 3 replied. Around 15 minutes passed before CHUANKONG and shopkeeper Zhu arrived, and the two of them apologized for their tardiness before everyone boarded the ship together. There was a late golden, immortal stage elder of the vast Origin House, and an early true immortal stage administrator coming on the trip, and the former only appeared for a brief chat with Han Li's group before returning to his living quarters, while the latter arranged places to stay for everyone. The ship was enormous, tens of thousands of feet in size, and aside from cargo warehouses, there were also over 300 guest rooms, but they were generally reserved solely for members of the trading house. Han Li chose a room that was situated close to the bottom level, and the conditions were a little lackluster compared with the rooms on the higher levels, but it was quieter and more inconspicuous. The true immortal stage administrator accompanied Han Li through the cargo warehouse to his room, and as they passed through the warehouse, Han Li caught sight of a collection of large black crates with some special restrictions engraved upon them stacked in an orderly fashion. A hint of intrigue emerged in Han Li's eyes upon seeing this. Administrator Hu, Why does it feel to me like the spiritual power fluctuations on these black crates are similar to those of storage pouches? Hanley asked. That's a very astute observation, Senior. These black crates are indeed storage tools, and they're actually a little easier to craft than storage pouches. They can contain 100 times their volume's worth of cargo, but things can't be stored in them for as long as they can in storage pouches. However, they're more than sufficient for transporting things like spirit soils, the administrator explained. I see, Hanley replied with a nod. As he looked deeper into the warehouse, Hanley spotted some special cages that ranged from only around 3 feet in size to over 1,000 feet tall. There were arcs of lightning flashing over them, and all of them had restrictive talismans adhered to them. Inside the cages were a series of wounded or completely defeated demon beasts, and before Hanley even had a chance to ask about them, the administrator pointed at the cages and explained, "There are always people willing to pay exorbitant prices for exotic beasts. Take that primordial sand lion, for example. It was specifically requested by the arena in Spirit Swamp City, and we had to go to great lengths to capture one from the primordial land." Hanley's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this, and he didn't say anything further. The administrator could see that Hanley didn't want to speak on this matter, so he also fell silent. Upon accompanying Hanley to the entrance of his room, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you really not going to switch to a premium room, Senior?" "There's no need for that. I appreciate the thought, but I prefer a more peaceful room," Hanley replied with a smile. "All right, I won't disturb you any further then, Senior. Feel free to call upon me if you need anything," the administrator said, then promptly departed. Following the administrator's departure, Hanley entered his room, and only then did he discover that it was very spacious, consisting of a bedroom, a meditation chamber, and a guest room. There was a small window in each of the meditation chamber and the guest room, and he could see the sky outside through the windows. After briefly inspecting the room, Hanley began to set up a series of formation tools, and only after the setup was completed did he make his way into the meditation chamber, where he sat down with his legs crossed. As night fell, the light of the moon spilled into the room through the window, illuminating a patch of ground that was around a foot in size. Hanley removed the heaven-controlling vial from around his neck, then placed it onto the illuminated patch of ground. After that, he flipped a hand over to summon the jade slip that contained the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique, before pressing it against his own glabella. Over 30 years passed by in a flash. By alternating between ships and teleportation formations, Hanley and the others were able to cross the Black Dragon continent without any incident and enter the floating mountain continent. On this day, Hanley was cultivating in seclusion when he received a knock on his door from Fox 3. "Don't get too absorbed in your cultivation and forget the task at hand, fellow Taoist Lee. We're almost at Smoke Wave City, which is where we need to disembark," Fox 3 said with a smile. "Even if I wanted to forget about all of this, I'm sure you wouldn't let me. Go on ahead, fellow Taoist. I'll pack up my belongings, then come meet up with everyone on the deck," Hanley jibed. Fox 3 nodded in response before departing. Hanley closed the door of his room, then packed up all of the formation treasures and his other belongings. After that, he erased all residual aura of himself in the room before setting off for the deck. A few minutes later, Hanley and the others disembarked from the ship, landing on the official road outside Smoke Wave City before making their way into the city. "Why didn't we disembark at Illusory Smoke City like we planned? I've already had everything arranged there in advance. Why do you insist on disembarking here instead?" CHUANKONG asked with a displeased expression. "You mustn't be so inflexible, brother SHI. Everyone knows that the emergence of the illusory smoke is a precursor to the emergence of the true mantra sect ruins, but not everyone knows where the illusory smoke arises," Fox 3 said with a disdainful expression. So you're saying the illusory smoke has arisen near Smoke Wave City? CHUANKONG asked in a skeptical manner. Smoke Wave City, Illusory Smoke City, and Flowing Smoke City are all spread out across the bank of the illusory smoke swamp. But during the past few instances in which the illusory smoke has arisen, it's almost always been sighted first in Smoke Wave City, so that city must be the nearest one to its origins. My guess is that it could be somewhere near Serene Floating Island, Fox 3 explained. What is this illusory smoke that you speak of, fellow Taoist Fox 3? Hanley asked. I'll explain that. For some reason, after the True Mantra sect was destroyed, almost the entire sect vanished aside from a few fragments. Roughly every 3,600 years after that, a type of purple smoke would arise from the illusory smoke swamp, and parts of the True Mantra sect's ruins would emerge. But in most cases, they only appear for a moment before vanishing again like mirages, Immortal Lord Hot Flame explained. It sounds like you've been looking extensively into the True Mantra sect ruins as well, fellow Taoist Hot Flames, CHUANKONG remarked. I've only heard some passing rumors, Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied in a nonchalant fashion. The True Mantra sect ruins actually didn't exist in the past, and the illusory smoke swamp also had a different name, Fox 3 revealed. There were no ruins, Hanley asked with a surprised expression. That's right. The illusory smoke only appeared in this area for the first time tens of thousands of years ago. That was when the ruins of the True Mantra sect began to emerge, and it was also from that time that this place became known as the illusory smoke swamp. Fox 3 replied with a nod. So the True Mantra sect ruins just suddenly popped up out of the blue. How is that possible? Hanley asked with furrowed brows. Up to this point, there has been no conclusive answer to that question. However, Brother She speculates that the battle that led to the fall of the True Mantra sect was so earth-shattering that it cast the entire sect into a spatial rift, thereby causing it to disappear, and it's only re-emerged tens of thousands of years ago due to some unknown reasons, Fox 3 explained. That's just a completely baseless guess from me, so do take it with a huge grain of salt, CHUANKONG said with a smile. You're being far too modest, fellow Taoist Shi. I think there's a very good chance that this was exactly what happened, Hanley said. As the group was chatting with one another, they arrived at the gate of Smoke Wave City, where there was a group of cultivators conducting checks on those wishing to enter the city. However, they were only led by an early true immortal cultivator, and the tests weren't very stringent either. Hence, Hanley's group was able to quickly make its way into the city after submitting an entrance fee. This is a city inhabited by both mortals and cultivators, and only cultivators will be screened, while mortals are left alone. Even the tests administered on cultivators are nothing more than a formality. After all, the city lord is only a mid-golden immortal cultivator, so he'd do well to stay out of trouble, Fox 3 said. That makes things much more convenient. It sounds like you considered the options carefully before choosing this place, Hanley said. With that, the group passed through the northern part of the city, which was inhabited by mortals, and arrived in the southern part of the city. The southern section took up a third of the city, and the city lord's manor was situated there. In the city not far away from the manor was a small mountain by the name of Smoke Watch Mountina, and it was only around 5,000 feet tall. The largest immortal inn in the entire city was perched on the mountain summit, and that was where Hanley's group chose to stay. According to information from the Reincarnation Palace, the last time that the illusory smoke appeared on the illusory smoke swamp was around 3,500 years ago, so it should only be about a century before the illusory smoke was set to appear again. For cultivators of Hanley's caliber, a century was nothing more than the blink of an eye. Hanley and the others had thought that it wouldn't be long before they entered the illusory smoke swamp, But even after over 130 years had passed, there was still no sign of the illusory smoke that they were searching for. Fox 3 was naturally the one who was feeling most agitated by the unexpectedly long wait, and CHUANKONG and Immortal Lord Hot Flame were also feeling rather apprehensive, while Han Li remained unbothered. He was much more interested in getting his hands on a baleful Qi eradication method, but unfortunately, there had been no responses to the missions that he had released in the Reincarnation Palace. On the bright side, through his extensive seclusion, he had begun to make some very encouraging progress in the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique, and all of HTE spirit plants in the flower branch domain were also coming along nicely. On this day, Han Li had just finished watering his Tao warrior primary beans, and he emerged from the domain, then cast his gaze out of the window of the room that he was staying in to observe the illusory smoke swamp in the distance. At the moment, it was around noon, and it was also a bright and sunny day, so most of the mist above the swamp had cleared up. As a result, he was able to see serene floating island in the distance even without using his spirit eye abilities. Strictly speaking, serene floating island wasn't really an island. It was nothing more than a conglomeration of waterweeds and mud with a layer of soil on top. It was less than 10 kilometers in size, and there were some shrubs with shallow root systems growing on it. Han Li's plan was to look at the island for a short while before resuming his cultivation of the spirit refinement technique, but right at this moment, an intrigued look appeared on his face as he activated his infernal devilish eyes. He had spotted a gray stone pillar jutting out of the shrubs on the island in a rather jarring fashion. It was as if it had grown out of the island, and it was only around 6 feet tall, just barely taller than the shrubs, so it would have been almost impossible to spot had it not been for Han Li's exceptional eyesight. Immediately thereafter, wisps of pink mist suddenly began to emerge from around the stone pillar, and it was becoming thicker and thicker while quickly spreading over the surrounding area to inundate the entire island. Finally, almost at the exact same moment, a voice rang out from outside his room. "Fellow Taoist Li, the illusory smoke has already emerged. We must set off right away." Han Li could tell that it was Fox 3's voice, and he immediately replied, "I'll be with you in a moment, fellow Taoist Fox 3. Shortly thereafter, Han Li's group appeared on the summit of Smoke Watch Mountain, preparing to set off for Serene Floating Island. Please pardon my urgency, fellow Taoists. This bout of illusory smoke has emerged quite a bit later than anticipated, and many other cultivators have already arrived in Smoke Wave City to try their luck. There's no way they'll be able to find the entrance to the ruins, but it still won't be a good thing for too many people to see us," Fox 3 explained. "It's fine. Time is of the essence, so let's set off right away," CHUANKONG said. Han Li exchanged a glance with Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and both of them nodded in unison. With that, the four of them rose up into the air, completely disregarding the rule that prohibited flying over the city wall. Upon emerging from Smoke Wave City, Han Li suddenly heard a chorus of chaotic sounds ring out from down below, and he looked down to discover a group of several hundred people making their way toward the illusory smoke swamp while playing a series of percussion instruments. The group was led by several dozen figures who were wearing extremely large and strange masks, holding onto burning tobacco stalks as they led the way forward while dancing with peculiar and exaggerated motions. "Those are all mortals, aren't they, fellow Taoist Fox 3? What are they doing?" Han Li asked. Fox 3 took a nonchalant glance down below, then explained, "These people used to be indigenous inhabitants of the illusory smoke swamp, and they're no different from normal humans, but all of them have remarkably long lifespans, able to live for over 200 years. They only moved out of the swamp just over 10,000 years ago. Their ancestors don't know what the illusory smoke is, but every time it appears, some of their brethren would die or go missing. Over time, they came to regard the illusory smoke as some type of divine punishment from the gods, so they'll perform this ceremonial dance whenever it arises. At this point, they're already learned about what the illusory smoke is from the cultivators passing through this area, but they'll still abide by their traditions whenever it appears, performing their ceremonial dance at the edge of the swamp, CHUANKONG added. I see, Han Li replied as he turned his gaze away from those people. A few minutes later, the group arrived at the edge of the illusory smoke swamp before descending onto it. There was smoke swirling all over the surface of the swamp, resembling a vast river, and upon approaching the swamp, one would discover dark green waterweeds gently swaying beneath the water. Some white bubbles would also occasionally emerge on the surface of the water, producing a faint popping sound whenever they burst. The illusory smoke was spreading quite quickly, and at this point, it had already encompassed the entire surrounding area within a radius of several dozen kilometers of serene floating island. At this point, even mortals could clearly see the pink mist spreading over the landscape. I've already said this many times, but I still want to remind all of you once again that this illusory smoke can be very dangerous. Once we enter it, make sure to protect your mind so that you aren't fooled by the illusions presented to you. Fox 3 warned with a serious expression. I've prepared some divine spirit pills that can stabilize the soul and cleanse the consciousness. They should be somewhat effective against the effects of the illusory smoke, so I suggest all of us take one each. CHUANKONG said as he flipped a hand over to produce a dark green jade box. Where did you get these pills from? I haven't even been able to purchase them from the Reincarnation Palace. Fox 3 asked with a surprised expression. Just because the Reincarnation Palace can't acquire these pills doesn't mean that the vast Origin House is in the same boat, CHUANKONG replied, then opened the jade box and plucked out one of the pills before swallowing it. This will certainly make things a lot safer, Fox 3 said as he also took one of the pills. Meanwhile, Immortal Lord Hot Flame turned to Han Li with a slightly hesitant look in his eyes. You have my thanks, fellow Taoist Shi, Han Li said with a smile, then plucked out a pill for himself. He briefly inspected the pill to ensure that there was nothing amiss about it, then promptly swallowed it. However, as soon as he closed his mouth, a burst of silver flames emerged from his throat to envelop the pill, sealing it within his stomach. He was quite confident in his own spiritual sense, so he wasn't planning to actually take the divine spirit pill unless it was absolutely necessary to do so. With the example set by Han Li, Immortal Lord Hot Flame also followed suit, taking a pill as well. Fellow Taoists, all of us have to make sure to maintain our spiritual connections with one another so we don't get split up in the illusory smoke, Fox 3 said, then swept a sleeve through the air to produce an intricate silver flying boat that landed on the surface of the swamp. Everyone stepped onto the boat, and Fox 3 made a hand seal, upon which a burst of silver light emerged from all of the runes on the boat, and it was lifted up by about half a foot before shooting over the water. Only then did Han Li notice that the water in the swamp was a lot heavier than normal water. The momentum of the flying boat should have been enough to send waves churning in all directions, but there were only slight ripples surging over the swamp's surface. He leaned down and extended two of his fingers, the ones with the flower branch refined into them, into the water, and he immediately realized why this was the case. As it turned out, the water here was interspersed with some type of black sandy substance that possessed certain corrosive properties, but of course, it was unable to harm his golden, immortal body. Even though the boat still hadn't entered the illusory smoke yet, the sun was already beginning to set, making the smoke on the swamp appear darker and denser than before. As they passed by a giant mass of green duckweed, the surface of the water suddenly exploded, and a massive wave erupted upward as a huge black shadow sprang out of the swamp before crashing down upon Han Li's group. Han Li turned to discover that it was a giant fish that was covered in black scales. The mass of duckweed was actually a plume of disheveled hair on its head, and its cavernous mouth was filled with sharp teeth. Han Li and the others had already detected the approaching fish even before it attacked, and none of them had paid it any heed, with Fox 3 even jokingly mocking its hideous appearance. CHUANKONG casually swept a sleeve through the air, releasing a streak of silver light that sliced the fish into two with ease. However, no blood seeped out of the fish's body as its wounds were sealed by a burst of spatial power, and only after it had fallen back into the swamp did its blood begin to spread through the water. Don't get complacent, everyone. There's no telling what other manners of strange creatures we could encounter in this place. As soon as CHUANKONG's voice trailed off, a giant twin-headed crocodile rushed out of the swamp with mud all over its body, opening one of its mouths in an attempt to swallow the entire flying boat whole. "You spoke it into existence, brother Shi," Fox 3 said with an amused smile. CHUANKONG paid no heed to him as he made a hand seal, conjuring up a seemingly extremely thin silver light barrier around the flying boat. The twin-headed crocodile crashed into the silver light barrier. Both of its heads were instantly pulverized upon impact, as if a gargantuan mountain had fallen upon them. "This thing's not very smart, but it certainly has strength to spare," Immortal Lord Hot Flame remarked. "There's something else up ahead," Han Li suddenly said. An azure bamboo cloud swarm sword appeared in his grasp, following which he sprang up into the air before slashing his sword forward. A streak of azure swordlight was released, vanishing into the swamp up ahead in a flash before exploding violently. An agonized roar rang out as a huge volume of blood gushed into the water, and immediately thereafter, a creature that was identical in appearance to the strange fish from earlier, except enlarged by tenfold, rose up to the surface with its body already sliced into two. The silver flying boat was able to fly straight down the middle between two halves of its body, and Fox 3 chuckled. "With the two of you standing on guard duty, I don't have to worry about anything aside from piloting the boat." As the flying boat rushed into the illusory smoke, the latter was also surging toward the former, and it didn't take long before the two made contact hundreds of kilometers away from serene floating island. As soon as the flying boat entered the pink smoke, it immediately slowed, and everyone released their spiritual sense to scour the surrounding area. As expected, spiritual sense is severely restricted within the illusory mist, so we won't even be able to discern our location, Fox 3 said. "In that case, let's be a bit more careful, and we'll each focus on one direction," CHUANKONG suggested with a cautious expression. As for Han Li, his brows were slightly furrowed, and there was a hint of surprise in his heart. Even with his immense spiritual sense, his sensory range within the illusory mist was only around a dozen kilometers. "It's fine, I'll be able to sense it if the sect ruins emerge," Immortal Lord Hot Flame assured. He flipped a hand over as he spoke to produce a longan-sized pink bead, which appeared to be no different from a normal clam pearl, except it was riddled with tiny golden runes that were flashing incessantly. "What's that?" CHUANKONG asked. "This is a true mantra bead that was given to me by my master. Originally, it was only meant as something to facilitate convenient travel for me within the sect, allowing me to use the teleportation formations in the sect as I please. But in the wake of the sect's destruction, this is perhaps the only bead of its kind left in the outside world," Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a reminiscent expression. "So you're saying this true mantra bead can help us find the ruins?" Han Li asked as he raised an eyebrow. "This bead can establish a connection with all of the teleportation formations in the sect, of which there are over 300. However, due to the presence of this illusory mist, I'm guessing that its sensory range will be severely limited to no more than a few dozen kilometers," Immortal Lord Hot Flame explained. "That's better than nothing. If we can find an intact teleportation formation, perhaps we'll be able to teleport straight into the true mantra sect, Fox 3 said. Hanli cast his gaze into the distance as he listened to the ongoing conversation, and he spotted a corner of a building's roof jutting out of the mist up ahead. Immediately thereafter, a 3-story archway that was around 1,000 feet tall came into view. It was extremely dilapidated, and it looked as if it wasn't all that far away from toppling over entirely. This is the Black Beam Archway, one of the 10 archways on the Merchant Street in the sect. Immortal Lord Hot Flame exclaimed upon catching sight of the archway. Looks like we're in luck, Fox 3 said with an elated expression, and the flying boat began traveling in that direction at his behest. Hold on, fellow Taoist Fox 3, you're running into an illusion, Hanli suddenly declared. The flying boat drew to a sharp halt over 1,000 feet away from the archway, and everyone turned to discover a peculiar purple light glowing in Hanli's eyes. Those are infernal devilish eyes. Fellow Taoist Li, how did you master this spirit eye ability of our devil race? CHUANKONG asked as his brows furrowed slightly. I came across the secret technique by chance, and I just so happened to have dabbled in a devilish cultivation art in the past, so things worked out quite well for me, Hanli explained in an ambiguous fashion. A hint of befuddlement flashed through CHUANKONG's eyes upon hearing this, but he didn't pry any further. As for Immortal Lord Hot Flame, he couldn't help but turn to Hanli with an intrigued look on his face. They were both late golden immortal cultivators, but Hanli struck him as someone completely unfathomable. Looks like fellow Taoist Li was the perfect final member to round out our group, Fox 3 praised, then swept a sleeve through the air, sending a streak of light hurtling toward the archway. In the instant that the streak of light struck the archway, a vast expanse of silver radiance erupted forth, forming a giant silver vortex with a radius of over 1,000 feet. The vortex was releasing a burst of terrifying spatial power that twisted the entire archway into a ball before devouring it, and in the end, all that remained was a fist-sized black hole that also slowly disappeared. Fox 3's smile instantly stiffened slightly upon seeing this. Thank heavens fellow Taoist Li was able to see through the illusion. Otherwise, we would have most likely already been sucked into a spatial rift by now, CHUANKONG said with a hint of lingering fear in his voice. Right as his voice trailed off, an intoxicating aroma began to spread through the area, and everyone looked around to discover that a large area of palatial structures had appeared within the mist. Their silver flying boat was no longer traveling over the swamp. Instead, it was traversing through a lush sea of flowers, sending countless flower petals drifting down in all directions. Around the sea of flowers was a series of intricate pavilions and pagodas that connected to the palatial structures in the distance, and there was a group of gorgeous celestial maidens in palace dresses standing on a covered bridge. Some were holding delectable spirit fruits, some were holding flagons of fine wine, and some were carrying palace lanterns as they made their way gracefully toward the nearby pavilions. There were many immortals seated in these pavilions, sharing wine, reciting poetry, or playing Go, and it seemed that Hanli's group had unwittingly stumbled its way into a banquet. The flying boat immediately drew to a halt at Fox 3's behest, and he turned to CHUANKONG as he said, "Your divine spirit pills don't seem to be working, brother Shi. Why are these illusions only becoming more and more potent?" "The divine spirit pills are working as intended. It's just that this illusion is too powerful. If we hadn't taken those pills, we would have most likely already become completely immersed in the illusion and be unable to discern it from real life," Hanli explained in CHUANKONG's stead. He hadn't taken his divine spirit pill, so he was aware of just how powerful this illusion was. If he hadn't already channeled his spirit refinement technique to protect his own consciousness, even he would have most likely already fallen prey to it. Fellow Taoist Li, can you dispel this illusion with your spirit eye ability? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked. My spirit eyes can only help us avoid danger, but it can't dispel illusions. However, I think fellow Taoist Shi can perhaps dispel part of the illusion by using his spatial law powers to force back some of the nearby illusory mist, Han Li replied. Theoretically, that's possible, but it would be far too taxing, and I won't be able to dispel any illusions that encompass large areas, so I'm afraid that's not a very feasible solution, CHUANKONG said as his brows furrowed slightly. How about this? Will a fellow Taoist Li use his spirit eyes to help us avoid danger, while fellow Taoist Hot Flame uses his true mantra bead to detect for teleportation formations? Once we discover something, we'll get Brother Shi to dispel the illusion in that area. As for myself, I'll continue to pilot the boat, Fox 3 proposed. Han Li and Shi Chuankong exchanged a glance upon hearing this, and both of them nodded in approval of this proposal. Immortal Lord Hot Flame naturally had no reason to object, and with that, the flying boat slowly continued onward. Turn left once we emerge from this field of flowers, Han Li instructed as he scoured his surroundings with his infernal devilish eyes. You want me to crash straight into that bridge? Fox 3 asked in a hesitant manner. Trust me, Han Li insisted, and Fox duly obliged, guiding the boat in that direction. After emerging from the field of flowers, the boat turned left and crashed straight into the covered bridge, only for it to completely disintegrate upon contact, and Han Li's group passed straight through the bodies of the celestial maidens on the bridge. From here, go straight for about 700 feet, then turn right. Under Han Li's guidance, the flying boat was able to traverse through one illusion after another, and around an hour later, the boat was passing through an illusory pond when Immortal Lord Hot Flame suddenly exclaimed, I've found it. Han Li and the others immediately turned to Immortal Lord Hot Flame upon hearing this, and at this moment, the true mantra bead in his hand was glowing brightly, as were all of the golden runes on its surface. Is there a teleportation formation here? Fox 3 asked with an elated expression as he brought the flying boat to a halt. Immortal Lord Hot Flame nodded in response. All right, looks like it's up to you now, fellow Taoist Shi, Han Li said as he turned to Shi Chuankong. Shi Chuankong offered no response as he closed his eyes and joined his palms in front of himself, then chanted a silent incantation, and a burst of radiant silver light and spatial fluctuations immediately emerged from between the palms of his hands. All of a sudden, his eyes sprang open as he brought his hands apart, then thrust both palms upward, and the burst of silver light between the palms of his hands instantly began to expand rapidly, forming a silver light barrier. As the light barrier continued to expand, the surrounding pond began to disintegrate, and the nearby illusory mist was also pushed further and further away. The silver light barrier expanded to encompass an area with a radius of over 10,000 feet before drawing to a halt, and the swamp was revealed in that area. Han Li's eyes were glowing with radiant purple light as he swept his gaze across his surroundings, and he immediately spotted a pile of loose white rocks up ahead, looking completely out of place. Over there. Under Han Li's guidance, Fox 3 immediately piloted the spirit boat in that direction until it arrived at the pile of rocks. The pile of rocks was only several dozen feet wide, and it looked like the remnants of a destroyed stone pillar. This is a stone pillar that would have once belonged to a teleportation formation, but at this point, the entire formation is already completely destroyed. Immortal Lord Hot Flame sighed in a disappointed manner. It's all right, the ruins aren't supposed to be easy to track down, Fox 3 said, not disheartened in the slightest. With that, the search continued. Over a month passed by in a flash. During this time, Han Li's group was able to find some sets of ruins, but most of them were just toppled buildings. As for the few teleportation formations that they encountered, all of them had been destroyed beyond repair. We're already quite far away from Serene Floating Island at this point. Should we consider going in another direction, fellow Taoist Li? Fox 3 proposed. We can try heading toward Illusory Smoke City, Han Li replied after a brief moment of contemplation. Right at this moment, Immortal Lord Hot Flame suddenly interjected. Hold on a second, there's another teleportation formation nearby. All right, let's go check it out first, Fox 3 said in an expressionless manner. At this point, everyone had already been drained of the initial joy that they had experienced whenever a teleportation formation was discovered. However, as CHUANKONG cleared away the surrounding illusory mist, everyone was stunned by the sight that was revealed. On a white sand dune around 10,000 feet away stood 7 or 8 giant white stone pillars that were riddled with complex formation patterns, but they weren't giving off any spiritual power fluctuations. As the spirit boat flew over to the sand dune, the entire teleportation formation came into view. The formation was surrounded by 11 stone pillars, but only 7 of them were still fully intact, while another one was still half standing, and the rest had completely collapsed. Immortal Lord Hot Flame inspected the formation momentarily, following which his brows furrowed slightly as he said, "This is one of the 8 teleportation formations outside the sect, but it's also damaged beyond repair." Han Li paid no heed to him as he walked a lap around the entire teleportation formation, then cast his gaze toward the center of the formation with a contemplative look in his eyes. Moments later, he turned to CHUANKONG as he asked, "Fellow Taoist Shi, do you have anything that contains spatial law powers in your possession? Do you intend to use such items to substitute these stone pillars and repair the formation? Forgive me for being blunt, but that's not going to work," CHUANKONG replied after a brief hesitation. "We won't know for sure unless we give it a try," Han Li countered with a smile. "You have that pair of stone lions, don't you, brother Shi? Don't be so stingy. I'll compensate you if they somehow get damaged," Fox 3 said as he slung an arm across his shoulder. CHUANKONG paid no heed to Fox 3 as he continued to look at Han Li with a skeptical expression. "Can you really repair this formation?" "I'd say there's a 30% chance of success. How about it? Do you want to take a gamble?" Han Li asked. "My luck hasn't been great of late, so I'm probably going to lose again." CHUANKONG sighed in a resigned manner as he flipped a hand over to produce a pair of gray stone lions, each of which was around 3 feet tall. Han Li smiled as he made a beckoning motion, and the 2 stone lions were lifted up by a burst of azure light before descending onto the teleportation formation. After that, he flipped a hand over to produce a stack of formation tools and commenced the repair process. Several hours later, "All done," Han Li declared as he slotted the final formation plate into place. "It's fixed now," Fox 3 asked with a skeptical expression. The spatial power within the stone lions should be sufficient to support the entire formation's operation, but these formation flags and formation plates aren't so sturdy, so they'll only be able to last a very short time before they're destroyed, Han Li explained. "Will that be enough time to complete the teleportation?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked. "It should be. This formation was designed to be able to teleport several hundred people at once, so it should be able to teleport us in an instant. There's only one more thing that I need now," Han Li said as he turned to Fox 3. "What is it?" Fox 3 asked. "Immortal Origin Stones, and it looks like the formation will require at least mid-grade Immortal Origin Stones," Han Li said with a smile as he pointed at the indentations on the ground. "Surely you could have filled those slots yourself, fellow Taoist Li," Fox 3 said in a resigned manner. "I'm but an itinerant cultivator, so I don't have many Immortal Origin Stones on me, particularly when it comes to mid-grade ones," Han Li replied with a smile. Fox 3 exchanged a glance with CHUANKONG upon hearing this, and they couldn't help but smile in amusement. Prior to this, they didn't believe that Han Li was truly just an itinerant cultivator, particularly given all of the abilities that he had displayed up to this point. But in the wake of this stingy display, they were starting to believe him. The group filed into the center of the formation, following which Fox 3 fitted several mid-grade Immortal origin stones into the indentations on the ground. After that, Han Li made a hand seal, and the entire formation began to glow brightly. Shortly thereafter, the entire group disappeared, and the light radiating from the formation began to fade. Sure enough, the two stone lions remained completely unscathed, and most of the formation tools that Han Li had set up were also preserved. Moments later, Han Li and the others arrived in front of a giant mountain. There was a majestic entrance standing in front of the mountain, beyond which was a giant hovering white stone plaza that was enshrouded in a cloud of mist. There seemed to be a spatial barrier within the mist that kept out all spiritual sense, and in front of the entrance stood several enormous stone pillars that extended all the way up into the clouds. On top of that, the entrance was enshrouded under a white light barrier, which was clearly some type of powerful restriction. Immortal Lord Hot Flame looked up at the majestic entrance, and tears began to well up in his eyes, while a reminiscent look appeared on his face. All of a sudden, a resounding boom snapped him out of his train of thought, and he turned to discover CHUANKONG attacking the white light barrier. However, no matter what he tried, the light barrier remained firm, displaying no sign of breaking. "Let me have a go," Fox 3 said as his entire body abruptly swelled to over 100 times its original size, and he raised a hand, curling his fingers into claws before swiping them viciously through the air. 5 massive claw projections appeared before tearing into the white light barrier. A burst of radiant 5-colored lightning instantly erupted out of the light barrier, causing the surrounding space to rumble incessantly. However, after the lightning subsided, the white light barrier remained completely unscathed. Save your energy. This restriction is imbued with both spatial law powers and time law powers, so it's impossible to break it through conventional means, CHUANKONG said. Even though Han Li hadn't made an attempt at attacking the light barrier, he had arrived at the same conclusion through his observation. Fox 3 immediately reverted back to his original form upon hearing this, and he asked, "Is it that troublesome to deal with? Can you see any way to break the restriction?" "I can set up a formation to weaken the spatial power within the restriction, and that might make it possible for us to break the restriction if we all attack it together," CHUANKONG said. "All right, time is of the essence, so let's begin," Fox 3 said in an eager manner. Meanwhile, on the edge of the illusory smoke swamp stood a man who was built like a steel pagoda. His hands were clasped behind his back as he stood facing the swamp, and his fiery red hair was swaying gently in the wind. His facial features were extremely chiseled and well-defined, and his appearance was quite similar to that of a human, except he had a rhinoceros horn for a nose, and his ears were also very long and tapered, with a large golden ring hanging from each of them. At this moment, the man was peering into the illusory smoke in the swamp with an angry look on his face. Right at this moment, a streak of green light shot forth from afar, and when it was still several hundred kilometers away, it was enveloped within a fiery red spirit domain, following which it was instantly teleported to the brawny man's side. A resounding boom rang out as a green jade flying carriage abruptly appeared before slamming heavily down onto the ground. On the carriage was a red-haired man, another man who was thin as a bamboo pole, and a third handsome red-robed man. All 3 of them jumped off the flying carriage at once, then extended a collective salute toward the brawny man in a slightly awkward fashion as they greeted in unison. We pay our respects to Senior Kai Rong. These three men were Gong Shushan, his senior martial brother, Wang Ziosen, and his most prized disciple, Feng Qingyuan. "You're late, and by 2 whole weeks at that," the brawny man accused in a cold voice. "My sincerest apologies, Senior Kai Rong. Silver Fox made an appearance in the Black Mountain Immortal region, and we were delayed in our attempt to capture him," Gong Shutian informed. "Did you catch him?" the man by the name of Kai Rong asked. "Unfortunately, Silver Fox was able to escape with the help of a man from the devil race." "Useless trash," Kai Rong denounced before Gong Shutian had a chance to finish. The expressions of Gong Shutian's trio changed slightly upon hearing this, and a hint of fury flashed through their eyes, but then quickly faded. "Forget it. We're already way behind schedule, and the true Mantra sect ruins will only be around for a short time, so we have to make haste. I'll deal with this matter at some later date, but for now, we need to set off right away," Kai Rong said in a cold voice. Gong Shutian's trio was quite relieved to hear this, and the three of them gave a collective affirmative response. Kai Rong swept a sleeve through the air to release a wave of fire, which swept through the air in front of him, before transforming into an enormous spirit boat in the visage of a fiery dragon. The spirit boat sped forward as a streak of red light with the 4 men on board, plunging straight into the illusory smoke. Mere minutes following their departure, several streaks of light flew onto the scene from illusory Smoke City, then descended onto the edge of the swamp. The streaks of light then faded to reveal 4 figures, 3 male and 1 female. They were led by a middle-aged man who was close to 1.5 times the height of an average grown man, and his skin was bronze in color. His facial features were very angular, and he was wearing a suit of golden armor, outside of which was a purple and golden cloak. The man was none other than Su Liu of Jade Gathering City. "It seems these insolent fools have no respect for me, even when they're only my territory," Su Liu harumphed in disdain. Standing behind him was a man in a scholarly white robe, and he said in a casual manner, "They're also part of the heavenly court like we are, but we've never interfered with each other's work, and I'll agree that they've overstepped their boundaries by coming here without even notifying us first. Having said that, why are you so angry about this? With our 4 allied immortal regions joining forces, there's no way that treasure could fall into anyone else's hands." Fellow Taoist Zhao Zhen is right. The illusory smoke swamp is our territory, and they're just a bunch of outsiders stumbling into it completely blind. There's no way they'll actually be able to accomplish anything in there. A seductive woman in a purple palace dress chimed in. She was the current city lord of Illusory Smoke City, and also the Tao partner of the Black Soil Immortal Palace's palace master. She was only at the late golden immortal stage, but she had quite a lofty status in the 4 allied immortal regions. Zhao Zhen was the name of the scholarly robed man, and he was the immortal envoy stationed in Abyssal Lake City of the concealed Lake Immortal region. The final person to round out their group was a short and slightly hunched-over elderly man, and he was peering into the swamp with his hands clasped behind his back, taking no part in the ongoing conversation. "Senior Liu, we've all tried to enter the true Mantra sect ruins on our own at some point, but none of us have found success. Now that we've chosen to join forces, I think you have an obligation to be open and candid with us. Are you really confident in your ability to find a spatial node?" Zhao Zhen asked as he turned to the short elderly man. He was none other than Wu Liang, the current palace master of the Origin Contention Immortal Palace. "Rest assured, I wouldn't have said anything if I didn't have absolute confidence. All of you are aware of how to open the spatial node. Just make sure you don't hold back too much," the elderly man replied in a coarse voice. "I'm certainly feeling much more reassured now," the seductive woman said with a faint smile. "All right, that's enough chit-chat. Let's set off as well," Su Liu declared, and with that he sped into the illusory smoke swamp as an arc of 5-colored lightning, while the other 3 quickly followed along. Ali, meanwhile, hovering in midair above a section of the swamp countless kilometers away, was a giant stone staircase with several hundred steps. At this moment, there were several men and women dressed in blue cloaks making their way up the staircase. They were led by a tall and gorgeous woman with light blue skin and curly green hair, wearing a suit of light-scale armor. She walked in an elegant and seductive fashion, moving like a beautiful snake that one couldn't look away from. Trailing along behind her was an imposing man who was built like a stone wall with a giant sword on his back, and a thin and wizened elderly man who looked as if he were suffering from tuberculosis. The imposing man was looking straight ahead with a solemn and slightly anxious look on his face, while the elderly man was looking much more relaxed, with his gaze blatantly roaming over the blue-skinned woman's body in a lustful fashion. All of a sudden, the blue-skinned woman drew to a halt before turning around. Her gorgeous features had completely frozen over, and she turned to the elderly man with a pair of piercing golden eyes that were brimming with killing intent. "Take your filthy eyes off me, or I'll kill you right here and now," the blue-skinned woman spat through gritted teeth. The elderly man was instantly rooted to the spot, feeling as if a bucket of ice water had just been dumped over his head. The fear that he was feeling wasn't in response to the threat being directed at him. Instead, it stemmed from the peculiar light within the woman's golden pupils. "Why, yes, celestial maiden, by SHI, I'll keep my eyes to myself," the elderly man stuttered in response. "Celestial maiden, by SHI, hasn't it always been customary for members of our rogue change order to carry out missions in pairs? Why are we traveling as a group of 3 this time?" the imposing man asked. The blue-skinned woman's expression immediately warmed up upon hearing this, and a seductive smile appeared on her face as she replied, "If it isn't because that old pervert can set up spatial formations, you'd have me all to yourself for this mission again." The imposing man's expression became even more anxious upon hearing this, and he hurriedly said, "Please don't make such jokes, celestial maiden, by SHI." The blue-skinned woman seemed to be quite amused by this, and her smile became even more seductive, while the elderly man could only look on with a dejected expression. Ali. At the entrance of the True Mantra sect ruins, Han Li's group was busy at work, setting up a collection of formation tools and a small pile of silver crystals. At this moment, CHUANKONG was engraving a silver formation into the ground, and as he did so, he was instructing Han Li and the others to install all of the formation tools and silver crystals into the formation. With all 4 of them working at once, progress was rapid, and it didn't take long before a complex and resplendent silver formation was completed. "Step back a little," CHUANKONG said to Han Li's trio as he made his way into the silver formation. The 3 of them did as they were told, and CHUANKONG made a hand seal before pointing a finger at the silver formation, upon which all of the spirit patterns on its surface instantly lit up. The entire formation began to radiate dazzling silver light, and Boundless World's origin chi surged toward it in a frenzy from all directions, making the formation glow brighter and brighter. All of the silver light then converged to form a silver cloud that was several hundred feet in size, and there were countless silver runes surging within it, giving off formidable spatial fluctuations. CHUANKONG rose up into the air, standing above the silver cloud, and his entire body was enshrouded within a layer of radiant silver light, giving him a deity-like appearance. He began to chant an incantation, and a silver badge appeared in his grasp. The badge was shimmering with silver light, and it was also giving off bursts of spatial fluctuations. CHUANKONG tossed the badge forward, and it landed beneath the silver cloud. At the same time, he began to chant an incantation, and the silver cloud immediately surged into the badge in a frenzy. The badge instantly swelled rapidly to several dozen feet in size, and it began to radiate dazzling silver light, while the spatial fluctuations that it was releasing became significantly more powerful. Han Li and the others were also doing their part, channeling their immortal spiritual power in preparation to attack. CHUANKONG continued to chant his incantation as he gestured toward the silver badge with his hand, and 5 streaks of silver light shot out of his fingertips before vanishing into the badge. A sharp screeching sound rang out as a silver crescent moon that was several dozen feet in size flew out of the badge, then struck the white light barrier while rotating rapidly. However, there was no earth-shattering boom as anticipated, and the silver crescent moon fused straight into the white light barrier upon contact. A dull explosion rang out from within the white light barrier, and it shuddered violently as a layer of silver light appeared over its surface, giving off formidable spatial fluctuations. The layer of silver light was flickering erratically, but it then quickly stabilized itself. The layer of silver light was the spatial restriction within the white light barrier, and its emergence indicated that CHUANKONG's attack had been effective. An elated look appeared on CHUANKONG's face upon seeing this, and he began to make a rapid string of hand seals, upon which more silver crescent moons shot out of the badge in a frenzy, with all of them striking the layer of silver light. A burst of dull rumbling rang out as the layer of silver light flickered erratically, while becoming dimmer and dimmer. However, using the silver badge seemed to be extremely taxing on CHUANKONG, and his complexion was quickly becoming paler and paler. Thankfully, the silver cloud that was surging out of the silver formation was constantly injecting itself into the badge to support it. After a round of ferocious attacks, the layer of silver light was finally shattered, and it disintegrated into specks of spiritual light. As a result, the white light barrier was also left looking much more vulnerable than before. "Hurry, I've only temporarily broken the spatial restriction, but it'll be back very soon," CHUANKONG yelled in an urgent voice. Han Li's trio had been preparing for this very moment, and they immediately sprang into action. Immortal Lord Hot Flame was the first to act, joining his palms before splitting them apart again to produce an antiquated golden mirror, the same time attribute immortal treasure that he had used in that previous battle. He then began to chant an incantation while rubbing his hands together, and 2 bursts of golden light shot forth before vanishing into the golden mirror. The golden mirror instantly swelled to the size of a house, and a vast expanse of golden light surged out of its surface, then converged to form a giant golden rune that was over 100 feet in size. There was radiant golden light and tremendous time-law power fluctuations surging out of the giant rune, and Immortal Lord Hot Flame thrust his palms forward, upon which the golden rune shot forward to strike the white light barrier with tremendous force. The golden rune vanished into the white light barrier upon contact, and the latter shuddered violently, following which a flashing layer of golden light appeared over its surface. The layer of golden light was quickly becoming dimmer and dimmer, but it didn't shatter like the layer of silver light from before. At the same time, Fox 3 began to chant an incantation, and 4 figures that were identical to himself shot out of his body amid a flash of silver light. The 5 Fox 3s each made a grabbing motion in unison, and bursts of menacing crimson light erupted out of their hands. Immediately thereafter, all 5 of them opened their mouths, releasing 5 bursts of silver light that vanished into the crimson light in their hands in a flash. The bursts of crimson light rapidly shrank down to form giant crimson axes that were each around 100 feet in size, and arcs of crimson lightning were flashing over the axes. The 5 giant crimson axes came crashing down viciously upon the white light barrier, and at the same time, 9 azure bamboo cloud swarm swords appeared in front of Han Li side by side, with all of them radiating dazzling azure light. He opened his mouth to release a burst of azure light that injected itself into the 9 flying swords, and they quickly fused as one to form an enormous azure sword that was over 1,000 feet in size, with thick arcs of golden lightning flashing over them. Tremendous sword chi erupted out of the giant azure sword, causing the nearby space to ripple and warp. Having been nurtured in the profound heavenly gourd for so many years, Han Li's azure bamboo cloud swarm swords had once again become significantly more powerful than before. The giant azure sword came swooping down as a blurry shadow, appearing in front of the white light barrier in the blink of an eye before swinging down with immense power. At this point, CHUANKONG's complexion was looking quite pale, but he also took a deep breath before contributing to the collective effort by summoning a black wheel immortal treasure, which crashed down upon the white light barrier with an earth-shattering boom. In the face of such a formidable assault, the layer of golden light had already been torn apart, and the white light barrier was also being rapidly whittled down until there was only a thin layer of it left. Countless translucent white threads appeared within what remained of the light barrier, and they intertwined with one another to form a giant net. Despite how thin it had become, the white light barrier was displaying incredible resilience, withstanding everyone's attacks in a Herculean effort. Not only that, but golden and silver light had emerged from the edge of the white light barrier, and they were rapidly converging toward the center. It's time to go all out, everyone. If we let those restrictions recover, all of our efforts up to this point will be for naught, CHUANKONG yelled, then flipped a hand over to produce a faintly glowing purple pill. After a brief hesitation, he swallowed the pill, and radiant purple light erupted out of his body, while his complexion also quickly returned to normal. He made a beckoning motion to summon the black wheel immortal treasure back to himself, then began to chant an incantation, and a devilish purple projection with 6 arms and 3 heads appeared behind him. Immediately thereafter, he made a rapid string of hand seals before pointing a finger up at the sky, and a burst of purple light erupted into the heavens. In the next instant, a thunderous boom rang out, and a massive dark purple hole appeared in the sky with boundless devilish chi cascading down from it. The devilish chi raining down from the heavens converged to form a series of giant dark purple runes, which surged into the weapon held in one of the purple projection's hands. The weapon in question was a massive bow, and with the injection of dark purple runes, it was rapidly becoming clearer and clearer, almost taking on a substantial form. A layer of purple scales with dark purple runes inscribed upon them appeared over the bow, and on each end of the bow was a demonic dragon head with the 2 ends of the thick bowstring held between their teeth. With one of its other arms, the purple projection drew back the bowstring, and a giant arrow projection appeared before being released like a shooting star and striking the white light barrier. Meanwhile, Fox 3 was chanting a rapid incantation, and all 5 Fox 3s instantly fused back into one, following which his body began to expand at an alarming rate, swelling to several hundred feet tall in the blink of an eye. An enormous silver fox projection then appeared behind him amid a flash of silver light, and the 5 giant crimson axes also fused as one to form a gargantuan crimson axe that was over 1,000 feet in size. Bursts of crimson flames then emerged over the axe, and they burned with such ferocity that even the nearby space seemed to be melting away. All of a sudden, Fox 3 let loose a thunderous roar as he swung his enormous axe down upon the white light barrier. Meanwhile, Immortal Lord Hot Flame had stowed away his antiquated golden mirror, and he was chanting an ancient incantation with a solemn look on his face. A vast expanse of crimson flames erupted out of his body, forming a giant fiery figure with a crown of flames on its head and a staff of fire in its grasp. Its facial features were blurry and indistinct, but it was giving off the boundless, regal authority of a fiery deity. Immortal Lord Hot Flame made a rapid string of hand seals, then pointed a finger at the white light barrier, and the fiery figure behind him raised its staff of flames before also pointing it forward. A piercing shriek rang out as a thin line of flames shot out of the tip of the staff, then vanished into thin air in a flash. In the next instant, the thin line of fire abruptly appeared in front of the white light barrier before plunging viciously into it. At the same time, Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly as a ball of green light shot out of his body before transforming into the profound heavenly gourd. All of the countless tiny runes on its surface were flashing with green light, and the nearby world's origin chi was instantly stirred up into a frenzy. The profound heavenly gourd swelled rapidly in size at Han Li's behest, and the runes on its surface brightened considerably, while a burst of blinding green light erupted out of the mouth of the gourd. At the same time, dull rumbling could be heard ringing out within the gourd, and it was as if there were a volcano on the brink of erupting inside. "Go," Han Li yelled, and the gourd instantly shuddered violently, as did the space around it. A blurry golden and azure shadow then shot out of the mouth of the gourd before striking the white light barrier. The ferocious assault unleashed by Han Li and his allies resulted in an enormous eruption of purple, crimson, silver, and azure light, and a devastating aura of destruction surged forth in all directions. Amid the eruption of four-colored radiance, the purple and azure lights were glowing particularly bright, and there were countless purple and azure runes churning violently within them, stirring up the nearby world's origin chi into a frenzy. The white light barrier rippled violently as countless cracks appeared over its surface, and finally, it was torn apart with a resounding boom. The entire light barrier was shattered before disintegrating into a huge white cloud, and two flags, one golden and one silver, emerged from within the cloud. Both flags had countless star designs embroidered upon them, and the golden flag was giving off formidable time-law power fluctuations, while the silver one was giving off tremendous spatial law power fluctuations. Han Li's eyes instantly lit up as he pointed a finger at his profound heavenly gourd, and a burst of green light immediately shot out of the mouth of the gourd, covering a distance of several hundred feet in the blink of an eye to capture the golden flag. At the same time, a giant purple palm projection emerged before grabbing onto the silver flag. The hand belonged to the purple projection behind CHUANKONG, and Han Li was rather dismayed at the sight of the other flag being captured. The burst of green light sucked the golden flag into the profound heavenly gourd at his behest, while the giant purple palm projection carried the silver flag back to CHUANKONG. By the time Fox 3 and Immortal Lord Hot Flame realized what had happened, the two flags had already been claimed by Han Li and CHUANKONG. The two of them exchanged a glance with each other, and both of them could see their own disappointment mirrored in one another's eyes. It was clear that those two flags formed the basis of the restriction that they had just broken, and they were both immortal treasures of a very high caliber, with each imbued with the power of one of the paramount laws. However, Fox 3 and Immortal Lord Hot Flame didn't feel any resentment toward Han Li and CHUANKONG. Exploring a set of ruins was always a test of one's abilities and luck, and they only had themselves to blame for their slow reactions. "Congratulations, we haven't even entered the ruins yet. And you two have already claimed a pair of powerful treasures," Fox 3 said with a smile as he reverted back to his original form. "Brother Li and I were able to seize the initiative this time, but I'm sure there are many more treasures in the ruins for the two of you to claim," CHUANKONG replied with a smile of his own as the purple devilish projection vanished into his body. The dark purple hole in the sky also faded away, and right before it disappeared completely, Han Li took a glance into it with purple light flashing in his eyes. The hole was filled with devilish chi, and it was so incredibly deep that he wasn't able to see all the way through it, even with his infernal devilish eyes. It seemed to be a spatial passageway, but he had no idea where it led to. Casting aside that train of thought, Han Li made a beckoning motion, and the profound heavenly gourd immediately descended out of the sky before vanishing up his sleeve. The giant azure sword also flew back to him before splitting back up into 9 azure bamboo cloudswarm swords that returned to his sleeve as well. The two of you contributed the most to breaking the restriction, so you deserve those 2 treasures, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a smile, and the crimson figure behind him vanished into his body as he spoke. Now that I think about it, that gourd that you summoned earlier was an essential immortal treasures, right? It was certainly extraordinarily powerful, Fox 3 suddenly said as he turned to Han Li, and CHUANKONG also turned to look at him with an intrigued expression. As for Immortal Lord Hot Flame, he had already seen Han Li use the gourd in battle in the past, so he wasn't all that surprised. That's right. That gourd is an essential immortal treasure that I managed to obtain by chance many years ago, Han Li replied in an ambiguous fashion. There were a couple of reasons for why he had decided to summon the profound heavenly gourd here. Firstly, Immortal Lord Hot Flame was already aware of its existence, so there was no need to hide it. Secondly, he wanted to display some power so that Fox 3 and CHUANKONG didn't regard him as some golden immortal stage pushover who posed no threat to them. Of course, he had altered the power and aura of the gourd somewhat before summoning it. All essential immortal treasures possess tremendous power, and they're only acquired by those with immense fortune. It looks like you're a very lucky man, fellow Taoist Li. Hopefully, some of your luck can rub off on all of us on this trip, Fox 3 chuckled. Han Li merely smiled and offered no response. As this conversation was taking place, the white mist within the entrance of the sect had begun to churn violently, and it quickly transformed into a massive white vortex with a narrow passageway at its center. Faint rays of light could be seen within the passageway, presenting a rather mysterious sight to behold. It's already taken us quite some time to break that restriction, so let's not waste any more time here, Fox 3 said as he flew into the passageway as a streak of silver light, followed immediately by Immortal Lord Hot Flame. Han Li was just about to follow along as well when he suddenly noticed that CHUANKONG didn't seem to be displaying any intention of moving from the spot, and he asked, "Are you not coming in, brother Shi? All of the treasures inside could be taken if you're too slow." "Go on ahead, brother Li. I'll come in right after I've packed up this formation. This formation is a closely guarded secret of our devil race, so I can't afford to just leave it here," CHUANKONG replied with a smile as he swept a sleeve through the air, releasing a burst of purple light that began quickly picking up the formation tools on the ground. "All right, in that case, I'll be going on ahead as well," Han Li said with a nod before flying into the passageway as a streak of azure light. A peculiar gleam flashed through CHUANKONG's eyes as he watched Han Li enter the passageway, and after packing up the silver formation on the ground, he quickly followed suit. However, in the instant that he flew into the passageway, a small purple ball sprang out of his body before hovering in midair. The ball was around the size of a walnut, and there were countless tiny silver runes etched onto its surface, giving off bursts of spatial fluctuations. The purple ball shuddered momentarily before exploding to form a dense purple devilish cloud, with countless silver runes flashing within it. The purple devilish cloud was swirling and twisting like a living creature as it burrowed into space, but the silver runes within it were left behind to form a silver formation that was several dozen feet in size. The space at the center of the formation shuddered violently before a rift opened up, then split apart even further to create a dark purple spatial passageway. However, the spatial passageway seemed to be extremely unstable and looked as if it could collapse at any moment. 3 figures shot out of the spatial passageway before landing in front of the entrance of the sect. All 3 of them were purple-robed devilish beings that were giving off tremendous devilish chi. The trio was led by a thin, elderly man with a dark complexion and a head of sparse hair. His eyes were sunken extremely deep into his face, and he resembled a skeleton wearing a skin suit, presenting a harrowing sight to behold. Furthermore, there was no flesh or blood on his arms whatsoever, and the black arm bones beneath were revealed with a series of worm-like purple runes engraved upon them, giving off formidable devilish chi fluctuations. Standing beside him was a tall and extremely handsome purple-haired young man, with a head of purple hair so long that it could trail all the way down onto the ground. At the moment, his hair was arranged into a tall bun that was bouncing along behind him, and beneath his purple robe was another red feather robe that seemed to have been woven out of the feathers of some type of spirit bird. The red robe was extremely vibrant, and to complete his extravagant outfit, he was wearing a pair of rainbow-colored boots that were riddled with gemstones. His overall appearance resembled that of a fancy rooster. Standing beside him was a purple-robed young woman with a head of luscious hair and an exceptional figure, but her facial features were concealed behind a white veil. After the 3 of them flew out of the spatial passageway, it was finally unable to hold itself together any longer, and it quickly collapsed before vanishing altogether. The fact that the spatial passageway collapsed so quickly indicates that where we are right now is extremely far away from the black soil immortal region. It's no wonder that we haven't been able to ascertain the location of these ruins prior to this. If it weren't for the young master guiding us, we could have searched for 10,000 more years without any luck, the elderly man remarked, then turned his gaze toward the white vortex. That's the entrance. It looks like the young master and his companions have already broken the restriction. Let's go in, the purple-haired young man said. However, the elderly man raised an arm to stop him, and several threads of purple light shot out of his fingertips. Hold on. The young master told us to wait for a few minutes after we arrive before we enter the ruins. The young man's expression changed slightly at the sight of the threads of purple light, and a sheepish smile appeared on his face as he said, "My mistake. Let's wait for a bit before we go in." The elderly man gave a cold harumph before lowering his arm. Ali. As soon as Han Li flew into the vortex passageway, his body was instantly swept up by a burst of tremendous power, following which he found himself in a vast expanse of violent white currents. The currents of white light were surging in a completely haphazard and chaotic fashion, crashing against one another to produce a deafening noise. Han Li's expression changed slightly upon seeing this. These white currents were somewhat similar to the spatial turbulence that he had to endure during his ascension to the true immortal realm from the spirit domain realm. However, these currents were far more powerful and interspersed with hints of time law powers. Even though Han Li had grown countless times more powerful since the time he first arrived in the true immortal realm, he was still unable to steady himself, and he was involuntarily pulled along by the white currents. Bursts of tremendous power were constantly tearing at his body from all directions, and in response, he conjured up his true extreme film to form a protective layer over himself. After that, he took a moment to inspect his surroundings, but all he could see were more chaotic white currents, while Fox 3, Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and CHUANKONG were nowhere to be found. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, and he was just about to do something when a giant ball of white light suddenly appeared up ahead, before sweeping up his entire body. The ball of white light was filled with a burst of extremely chaotic time law powers, and Han Li was forced to close his eyes in the face of the blinding white light. In the next instant, he was abruptly pulled downward by a burst of tremendous force. A resounding thump rang out as he crashed into something, and all of the spatial turbulence around him instantly vanished. Upon opening his eyes, he was ecstatic to discover that he had emerged from the white currents, and he had slammed into the ground, creating a massive crater with his fall. He flew out of the crater before rising up into the air and inspecting his surroundings, upon which he discovered that he was situated on a flat and barren plain that was almost completely devoid of vegetation. There was white mist all around him, and the sky was also a murky white color. Due to the presence of this white mist, he wasn't able to see very far, but as soon as he released his spiritual sense to try and get a better grasp on his surroundings, he discovered that there was a burst of peculiar spatial power in the surrounding area that severely restricted his spiritual sense. Even with his current spiritual sense, he was only able to spread it over an area with a radius of 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Hence, he decided to turn to his infernal devilish eyes instead, and that allowed him to see a little further, but visibility was still restricted to only around 10,000 feet. The surrounding white mist was no ordinary mist, and it posed much impediment to his infernal devilish eyes. Despite the strange nature of the surrounding environment, Han Li remained calm and collected. He had explored countless ruins and secret areas, and he had encountered more than his fair share of strange places during those adventures. After descending back down onto the ground, he swept a sleeve through the air to summon a palm-sized purple jade plate with a complex silver formation engraved upon it. This was a teleportation formation plate that CHUANKONG had given him before they entered the illusory smoke swamp, and it had been refined using a secret technique unique to the devil race. The formation plate was imbued with a hint of spatial power, allowing communication to take place even through spatial barriers, so it was far more useful in secret areas like this one than normal communication formation plates. The formation plate rose up into the air at Han Li's behest, and it released a purple halo that was constantly flashing and fluctuating in brightness. A long time passed, but no response came from the formation plate. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, and he waited for a while longer before stowing the formation plate away. For some reason, he was unable to establish communication with Fox 3 and the others using the formation plate. If he couldn't find Fox 3, then there would be no way for him to complete this reincarnation palace mission, so this was a rather awkward predicament. At this point, he still didn't even know what the mission entailed. He had raised the question to Fox 3 on multiple occasions in the past, but all Fox 3 had told him was that he would answer that question once they arrived at their destination. However, now that they had arrived, they were no longer in the same place.